Cool. Well, Jason, thank you for coming and doing the podcast, bud.
Thank you for having me.
Dude, it's been a while, man. I like I said, we were talking downstairs, and I couldn't remember if it was this last. You were at Born Free a couple months ago, right? The California one. And
No, not the last one.
Okay, then it was last
before.
year. Then
Yeah,
it had to be last year then.
Yeah.
Because I think you had a booth there, right, or something
I
like
had
that.
a booth and had a bike. My Born Free 13 bike was in that.
Yeah. Man, seeing we were catching up earlier when you just got to the shop, and for me, it's just insane to like remember when I first met you, because like you said, we met at a swap meet in Dallas or Fort Worth, I think, right around New Year's, because that's the only one I would ever go to, I believe.
Yeah.
I remember you coming to the shop when I was working at Other Side Customs, and then I think I quit shortly afterwards, and then you carried on doing paint work with Gary there, and lost track of you. I was in a different kind of part of the motorcycle scene here in Dallas than you were, and then bam, I'm at Southern Throwdown pre-party in 2016, and you walk up, and I'm like, what the fuck, like,
yeah,
you're into this? You drinking this Kool-Aid too?
Yeah.
Like, what the hell?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of involved into kind of the chopper world for me. Like I've always liked Harleys. Dad was avid Harley rider back in the day, shovel heads and old pan heads and stuff like that. But he had an old shovel head, and so I'd been around old parties and stuff growing up, and I've always had a liking to it, and always wanted one, but I wasn't able to afford one until I got older, and kind of picked up a Dyna. Started chopping on that thing a little bit and trying to make it my own, and then I realized that I kind of like customizing bikes. Of course, didn't know anything.
Yeah. When you got that Dyna, though, you said you bought it new, right, in like 04, 05 or something like that?
It was 05.
What was kind of like the style that you would kind of like try to obtain through a Dyna at that time? Was it more of like trying to make it like a night train or some?
More like night train, because my idea was I was gonna want to put like a Springer on it and do like a Dyna lowrider. Night train style kind of. Yeah, that's kind of what I've always liked. But it kind of just evolved into something else. It started chopping the fenders and bobbing the fenders and whatever. I just didn't know what I was doing, but I just knew I wanted something kind of different to my make it my own. So I just kept kind of going forward with that, and decided I wanted some paint on it. So I had Tanner.
Oh yeah, Tanner, the pinstriper.
I met him through an old friend, and he came over and he did some paint and some pinstriping for me on that bike, and ended up selling it, thinking that I was ready to try to find a chopper. So sold that bike, sold the old truck I had, and decided to buy a kit bike. That's back in the day when V-Twin was they were selling the Santee rigid.
What was the Santee company? Where were they based out of? Because I remember there was a couple different people that were doing those like kit choppers.
Yeah.
I think even Jesse James, West Coast, had like a version of that as well.
Yeah. There was a shop in Fort Worth that was actually selling them, and I went through him. Okay. And they finance you and do all that. So that's kind of how I got into it. So I took a big chunk of money, financed the rest of it, and he kind of put the bike together for me as far as piecing it together and sent the kit bike to me. And I wanted to save some money, so I put it together myself. Didn't know what I was doing, kind of learned as I went.
Have you always been kind of like drawn towards like the idea of learning how to do that type of stuff? Like, I know that we all at some point have to pay someone to do something that's just out of our wheelhouse, but sometimes seeing it done is like, man, I actually want to see what that feels like.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And it was, there was, I think more of it was just watching, biker build off and stuff like that. It's like I wanted to do that, And I had my inspiration, of course, was Jesse James and Billy Lane. Like I loved Billy Lane's style back in the day. So just kind of that's what kind of drove me into wanting to, put my own bike together and have my own hands on something. Yeah. And again, I didn't know what I was doing. It was a learn as you go type thing, and it still is for me. I don't do this every day.
Yeah.
It's just I think I have the passion and the inspiration to do it, and that's what drives me to kind of
keep pushing. Yeah. I think that like those early days, man, it's so funny because I remember the first time that I tried to customize something too. It's always easy to cut stuff. Yeah. Right. It's the next step is learning how to reattach something to it or weld it or whatever. And I I remember back in the day on the sport bikes, you know, you take like this plastic front fender and you start making points on it and shit.
Yeah.
So, you know, it's kind of what RD would do on some of the stuff he would do, you know, but it was always easy to kind of, and even though it looked hideous, right? It's like, fuck, it's not as hard, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like when you try to do those kind of things, like, and you have a little bit of success or you have an idea and you make that idea come into reality,
Right.
It's an addictive drug of, man, I want to do more. I want to do this. Sometimes I feel like people get so wrapped up in the concept or the idea of building a bike that the idea of riding it never even fulfills the high of the build, right?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
That's true. I mean, it definitely takes away from the riding part of it, you know, because you're kind of, especially when you're building a bike for a show, you know, you're so in tune in building a bike and trying to do your best work that, you know, you forget about pretty much everything, riding and family and everything. Of course, you have to, you know, position yourself to be able to
Do all that.
do it all. But, you know, at the same time, like the way my mind works when I'm working on something.
Yeah.
We talked about this earlier, laying in bed and I'm going to do this tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know, or maybe I want to go out in the garage right now and I've done that. I've, you know, 2 or 3 in the morning, I'll walk out to the garage and pick a piece up like, well, maybe this will look better, you know?
Yeah.
But, you know, 5 times out of 10, I'll probably scrap that piece, you know, and start over. And again, a lot of it's because, you know, I'm not an everyday fabricator. I learn as I go and, you know, and I've said it before, you know, nobody's born into, you know, their talent. You got to find your talent.
Yeah,
and, you know, and this is not something that I make money off of or anything like that. I do it because it's a passion for me, you know.
I like telling people that I don't think talent really exists. I think that it's time and effort is what you're talking about.
Right.
Some people, I believe that some people are more inherently, I guess this is where talent would exist, is that they can learn quicker because of maybe they have a different hand-eye coordination or whatever the case may be. Yeah. And I always think of it as skateboarding, right? Like when I skateboarded when I was a young kid, there was a certain level of things I could do whenever I didn't. It's like the first day I skated, I was ollieing off like stairs, right? The first fucking day. I was like, everybody's like, dude, you're badass. Yeah. Well, I didn't know what I was doing. Yeah, you're a natural. Yeah. But it's like once I started really diving and trying to figure out how to do these tricks is when I got in my head and in my own way. Yeah. It's kind of like that beginner's luck kind of thing or whatever. But, you know, when you do something over and over again, you get better at it. And I think that some of us can do that quicker. And that's the only thing I would consider to be talent. Yeah. Is some of us can evolve into certain areas quicker, you know. The same, like if me and you put the same amount of energy and time into the same project, but you're a little further along than I am, that's what I would consider to be talent. Or whatever the case may be. But so many people just they just write it off like I can never draw, right? And then YouTube comes around, you see all these people that have these time lapses over years when they have these stick figures, and next thing you know, they're drawing this realistic, you know, portrait of somebody over the course of years of just doing practice, you know. Right. So when it comes to fabrication and things like that, I mean, coming off of just doing some welding on an exhaust system, the welds at the end of the exhaust look 10 times better than the welds at the beginning of the exhaust. So that's just progression within one product that we were trying to make. So, you know,
and I totally get that, you know, like when it comes to welding, that's the other thing, you know, I don't do this every day. I have to go out there and push myself to practice because I taught myself how to TIG weld. I was using a MIG welder. You know that looks. That just looks like shit unless you're totally badass at MIG welding. But I decided, you know, I wanted to learn how to weld and have cleaner welds. So I bought a TIG welder, Miller 180, and just started kind of messing around, practicing and practicing, you know. And I put the time in, and I mean, I wasn't stacking dimes, but I mean, definitely everything.
The job was getting done.
Yeah, it was getting done, and everything was, you know, it's not going to fall apart. So and I've gotten better at, you know, to the point where, you know, I can make my welds look pretty clean, and then I clean them up, of course. But what I found to be even, you know, I guess what I really like doing is metal finishing more than anything. Like taking a couple of pieces and making it all look like one.
Oh,
like, I really like enjoy that. Like I've noticed, and I watch videos of some of like metal finishing guys or metal, you know, fabricators that are doing like metal finishing and doing all this crazy stuff. And it's like trying to put that, wrap my head around that. It's still hard, but I've taken some of the, some of the things I see and learn from them into what I'm doing, and it has helped a lot. But I really enjoy like the finished piece. Like I made, a couple of pieces on my Born Free bike last year and a year before, and just seeing it from like tacked metal to finished pieces into chromed. It's like
that
amazing,
dude. You're going all the way to chrome with it. Yeah, that's I'm not even. That's not even something I want to try right now. I just want to get it good enough for Bondo.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah. No, I've done the last two fenders I've done. I chromed them out and I welded the bungs in and welded all the parts in and narrowed them and they look pretty good. So I was pretty proud of myself. And again, I fuck things up more than I do. More than I get it right. But the thing is with me is like again, I think passion and just wanting to do it right for myself. And it's not, it's something that's I've learned I would get really frustrated and pissed off and throw shit across the shop, and to the point where now it's like, you know what, that's how you learn. You just got to keep going, and it's just metal. I mean,
you got to allow yourself to fail, right?
Right.
And I think Jesse James used to do those videos or talk about this a lot about how he'll throw away 20 parts before he's right. And then very small fries to give you like my experience of that was I made 4 exhaust brackets to try to figure it out. And of course I'm not using math. I'm using eyeball math. And so that's pretty much why it keeps fucking up. But in that process, like you realize like, okay, I have more metal. I think I'm at a point now where I've bent this one so much and done so much to it. It's just like, I'd rather just start fresh because I learned something in this fucked up one that I can now apply and work my way into it.
Right.
Ultimately, the very first one I made ended up being the one that I did because beginner's luck again.
Yeah.
So I just kind of learned something through there and then went back and fixed the first one and then used that one. But I always feel like that process of finding something to want to learn, it's kind of like a dream. It's like I have a dream to achieve this or do this. And when you have that, you always stay connected to these things, right?
Right.
It's like, what do you do when you feel like there's nothing else to accomplish within this world of, creating something or doing something or experiencing something? You just burn out or you lose an interest or whatever the case may be. So
well, that's the thing. I started messing around bikes in 2005, and here we are, 2023. Or 2023, and I'm still doing it because I'm passionate about it. I don't. It was never. Maybe I thought it was a fad in the beginning. Maybe everybody's got a chopper, everybody's got a Harley, whatever it may be. But then I kept going with it. So obviously it's a passion for me. So nobody can take that away from me. And I know for myself that I really like doing custom work on my bikes, and I have built bikes for customers as well. But that I don't really enjoy that. I like to take my own ideas and my own, just my own talent as far as that takes me anyways, and build, a quality bike. And I think I've been able to do that.
Well, what I think you're getting at with that, like why it feels better to do your own thing is because when you're already going through you're already trying to convince yourself of everything that you're trying to do on this build. And so once you finally convince yourself that that's the direction you want to go, if you have to then turn around and go and try to convince somebody else, that's like another layer of complexity that maybe you're not good at communicating what you're trying to do, and they're not quite trusting your vision enough. And so sometimes it is easier just to build what you see yourself and then if the customer wants to buy the bike afterwards, or, hopefully they just completely trust your vision of the bike and they just kind of stay hands-free or hands-off, to allow it to kind of be what it is, but I don't know. I think that I understand where you're coming from on that shit for sure.
Yeah.
So with like the different types of bikes that you buy early on, from like the Dyna to the kit bike to even progressing into the Road King that you had picked up later on, did you find it like, were you like getting into it and then you felt like something was missing within this bike or this genre of bike or this scene, or like, you know what I mean? You're going with that. Like, was there something missing in that bike world at the time with those type of bikes that you were kind of dialing in?
I think in the beginning it was more inexperience with the choppers. If you're going to ride a chopper, you got to know how to work on them, and for the most part, whether that be, rebuilding a transmission or you wiring or finding, what's going on with the bike, and my inexperience and just being on, taking long trips with my friends and being on the road, side of the road, broke down, for hours, and not just me, just
other
any of
guys
them.
too. Yeah.
And we're trying to, and that's part of that's the thrill of the ride, and just being with your friends and riding. But at the same time, I wanted something. I was like, oh, maybe this isn't really for me. So I, at one point, thought that I'm going to buy a Road King. I can go out, start it. My wife at the time could ride with me, and we could go on these long trips, and which we did. But there was just something missing. It was like
Was it too easy sometimes?
Yeah, it was just I was used to the rigid motorcycles on the road and just everything vibrating, and it's just a different feel. So that's when I decided to go to the Road King came after the Dyna, and then I got the long bike. I got a Santee kit bike that I put together and rode that for a long time, and just really enjoyed the choppers and just kind of just kept going from there.
What was the chopper scene like? Because that time frame that you did that was kind of after the big wave of, I guess your TV choppers that was going on, but there was still like a lot of remnants of chopper companies in Dallas-Fort Worth. I mean, I remember the mid 2000s, there was almost as many chopper shops as there is powder coating shops now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's not a dig at you, Matt.
Yeah.
Powder coater over here. But it was literally almost you would be in Hearst and there'd be full bore cycles, Daryl's custom cycles, and then
Reeds.
There's at Reeds, and there's like 100 motorcycle shops on the same. It's kind of like Cave Creek in Arizona, where there's a shop every other block.
Right.
Dallas had a heavy one. But it seemed like Fort Worth and the mid cities here in DFW was just stacked. And then of course Iron Horse, the big manufacturing company, when they went under, everybody that worked there started their own custom paint shop, started their own chopper building shop. And so there was like even 10 times more for a while before those all disappeared,
Yeah. So, back then I think a lot of it was more of a, more of a solo
endeavor.
Yeah. Back then it was kind of trying to find the people that were in the same, same things you were. So at that time, I met a couple of guys that were hanging out at Lucky 7 Cycles. So I started hanging out with those guys and riding with them for a minute, and a few years. And so the scene was there, and then it just I noticed after it sizzled out, maybe, I don't know, I guess people just have different, waves of life, kids and getting married and whatever it may be, and starting businesses or whatever it may be. It just kind of fizzled out. So I myself started hanging out with a couple other guys in the Fort Worth area, which Kirk Sharp, he's definitely an OG in the biker world around here. So I started hanging out with him and Scott and Jim Harper and all those guys, and we were doing a lot of riding back in the day. So just kind of hung out with them and started learning more about choppers and getting into the mechanical side of it and how to maintain a bike and so on. So just learning, bits and pieces from all these different friends I had. And, and even then, like a lot of these guys, they're family guys and business guys, and they kind of, started spending more time focusing on that. And at the same time, I was like, well, what do I do now? So I think that's when I was still into it. I was still passionate about, the choppers and learning how to build and weld and do all that. So I just kind of buckled down and just stayed in my garage and kept, trying to teach myself how to do different things. I did have a really good friend named Clinton Wallace. He's in the Houston area. He and I were good friends, and we still are. But he taught me a lot as well. He was very talented. He's had several bikes and, Cycle Source magazine and Hot Bike. And so he's been around longer than I have. And I met him way back in the day. It's just that we were kind of far apart. So, but anytime I needed something, I'd call him like, hey, what's going on? I this is where I'm at, and he would always give me, some information on how to fix something or how to do something or, bring it over, I'll help you out, or I'll come down, And so he was always a big inspiration.
What year was this? Like when y'all started kind of messing around?
2007-ish.
Okay. Yeah.
2006, 2007. Yeah. So it's been early on, and I even introduced him to the Lucky 7 guys at one of the parties. He came down a couple of times. Another guy is Stephen Bates.
Yeah. He had that engraved chopper tank with the Jesus on the front of it.
Right. So,
everybody remembers that thing.
Yeah. and he had that engraved tank with the aqua frame.
Yep.
Yeah. So I met him. I saw his bike in magazines, I think, and I think I saw it on a Born Free video. And I met him at old bike shop years ago. So I went up to him, started talking to him, and I told him. And at that time, I started working on that Ironhead, little 76 Ironhead that I had to start putting back together after I sold the Road King. I had quite a bit of money saved up for another build, so why I bought an Ironhead, I don't know, but I got it really cheap. It's like, I'm going to build a cool little Ironhead. So I did, and I met him around that time, and so he also helped me, quite a bit.
What's he doing these days? I haven't heard much from him.
He is married now, and he's works for they do like like heavy moving.
Okay.
Because
he had a couple bikes that came out of his camp.
He has a nice shop. I've been out to his new house. He has a 30 by 60 shop, and he's got quite a few bikes going now.
Nice.
So I mean, he's still building, but I think he's just kind of off the radar.
Yeah.
But super good guy. And just learning from different friends over the years. And one of probably the guy that's taught me the most though over the years. I met him later on. His name's Rob Clegg. They call him Dr. Rob. He's a PA in Grapevine, and this guy built some quality bikes. I mean, he's super meticulous. Like doesn't rush anything. Like he's taught me to have patience and taught me how to you got to slow down, dude. Like you have a lot of talent, but you got to slow down.
Yeah.
Because I would get to the point where I just want to rush. Oh, it looks good enough, And so he taught me how to have patience and just focus on being more creative. And so he's probably my biggest inspiration at this point. And we hang out a lot, and we talk about bikes, and he's a good friend of mine. So
that's one of the things that I think that as I got older, that when I started applying that to every aspect of what I do, from paint to trying to customize bikes or whatever, that patience aspect is really it's the thing that's not fun. It's, because I think what you might deal with is the same thing I deal with, is once you start to see it coming together, you want to force it together quickly. Yeah. And that's when you start cutting corners. And that's the thing that I feel like, maybe not cutting corners in quality of the build, but maybe you're so fixated on getting done that you're overlooking how you can also work on some other areas and really dial it in before it's done, Right. Patience, man. It's a virtue, I think, is how they say, right? If you just take a step back, just allow time to reveal everything that's going to reveal, and then things work out better. Yeah. The mentor stuff, I've been trying to use that word a lot lately to let people know that, almost everybody that has something rad, even the guy you're talking about now, I'm sure had somebody that really instilled those values into him over time. Yeah. That has shaped the way that he carries himself, and so on and so on. Yeah. So, I get that for sure.
Yeah. No, he was a hot rod guy as well. So that's where
he started.
Meticulous,
man.
Yeah. So he's been around the hot rods and choppers for a while now. But yeah, he's a good dude. Really good dude.
Yeah, I feel like the bike scene, like here in Dallas, like I said, we had a huge chopper scene, and then, we've always had a huge biker population here in Texas as a whole. And then while you were kind of doing that, I was kind of getting, making money in the big wheel bagger world and riding those bikes. And I always tell people, though, a lot of my customer base went from sport bikes to big wheel baggers. Yeah. So it wasn't so much that I enjoyed them. Some of the ones that came out early that were I felt like they were, even to this day, I think they're badass bikes. I just think that, like most trends that become popular, they just keep getting stretched out to the point where there's less soul in a bike and more of these things that don't really matter on a bike. Now it's stereo systems, right. or it becomes these retarded horsepower bikes that they're not rideable anymore. And and to me, I feel like we were talking earlier about a point that I kind of wanted to bring back up about. I try to make the vision of my bike always something in my head of being somewhere and riding it. I'm building this thing or customizing it, and all I can think of is this stretch of I-10, between the Arizona border in Benson, Arizona. I'm like, I want to fucking be right here when the sun's going down, and I've done it before, and I've been there, and and that's what I'm thinking of.
Yeah.
And that way, it's like, it's never just like, I want to see this bike when it's done. It's like, no, I want to feel it right there, you know? And so when I do that, it keeps me always wanting to ride bikes and keeps me traveling on them. So the last chopper, I feel weird calling it chopper around the actual chopper, dude. But, you know, I like to say the FXR chop
I get you.
is a bike that, like, last year I went to the Run to Terralingua, and this year, as it was all kind of coming together, that was where I wanted to ride this bike, to take pictures there in that desert that's got like this magical fucking vibe to it, if you will. And I wanted that to be the pictures that I put out to the world to show them the finished bike. And that's how we did it, right? Yeah. And I had to fucking earn it, dude. Yeah. It was not given to me. Yeah. To and from. While I was there, the gods of the area kept the bike running and purring right. But as soon as I left and on the way there, no. It made me work for it. You know what I mean? But when you know, so this Ironhead project, it's funny you bring that up, because this process that I went through with Corey from Main Drive to build this bike, he did all the fabrication on it, and really inspired me to want to take it a step further in my own skills to try to do that. But I feel like doing a Sportster chop is kind of like the most logical thing for me to do. Like, I want to buy like a relatively inexpensive Sportster, probably Evo style.
Yeah.
And just cut that motherfucker. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, that's exactly what I did. You know, I was working with Slady, and she said her husband had a Ironhead that he bought it brand new when he was a teenager, or had it almost new, something like that. And he only wanted $1,500 for it. Yeah. So I bought it, and of course, what do? I strip it down, you know, hardtailed it, did all the work, and I had this vision in my head of trying to build the baddest Ironhead I possibly could. Mm-hmm. So for me, I mean, I think it's pretty cool. Yeah. You know, but and a lot of people really wrapped their arms around that bike and thought it was really cool. And it, you know, I was in a couple of magazines. Gary painted it. Mm-hmm. Hours of airbrush work on that bike as well. So it was a really nice, you know, nice bike. And that bike, I actually, when I started getting really inspired to do, customization on bikes and trying to build a bike. You ever heard of 3-2 Choppers?
Yeah, yeah.
So they had a builder program. So I talked to them about what I wanted to do. I spent evenings, weekends over there. So they taught me a lot. So those guys, I mean, obviously they built the bike with my help. Yeah. I mean, like, I helped them, but I mean, they were the ones that had the knowledge and were able to make it happen. So I gave them a vision of what I wanted to do. And so I learned as we built that bike on, you know, what to do and what not to do, and took a lot of what they showed me and just kind of went forward with that. So, they actually helped a lot.
I didn't know they had a builder. That's pretty cool, because they've been, I still follow them now on Instagram, and they still make content. They're still building bikes. Yeah. They had posted one, like a roller the other day that had a nice little swag to it. And I've met them because there's been times that I've painted bikes for them through Gary, like when I was airbrushing for Gary, but never, like, I don't have a personal relationship with them at all. But, you know, they're one of those guys too that I need to probably reach out to and have on this pod, because fuck, dude, we were painting bikes for them at Gary's back in like mid 2000s. Yeah. So, and if they're still kicking now, that's 20 years in business almost. So you can't, you know.
So, you know what the funny thing about that too is, on that Ironhead, I don't know if you've seen those hoop kits they make for the DNA springers. Mm-hmm. So the first one I ever made was on my Ironhead. For real? Yeah, we kind of talked about making that front end cooler, and they came up with the concept, and we made it happen. Yeah, they made it happen, but I mean, it was on that bike, and that was the very first one they made, and they took off from there. So I mean, obviously they're doing really well with them. So they're still making. I know they sell a shit ton of those things, but they're really good fabricators. JC's a badass welder, man. I wish I could weld half as good as that dude. He's a fucking badass. And they're just, I mean, both of them, they're just meticulous. Whatever they do, they try to perfect it. Now, their styles, like, you know, their style, you know, but that's what's crazy about them. Is like, they never changed what they're doing, and they're still doing it.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely got more of that TV chopper style that was prevalent back in the mid 2000s. But I don't know, man, like, I think some of us have been saying that we feel like some of that's coming back. Yeah. I don't know if I'd like to say that it's coming back, because I think what's cooler is that it's just, I think that we're coming back to that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the population of people that like bikes is looking for something that feels fresh and new. And I think that those type of bikes still garner an experience to ride and to build and to customize. And with the amount of like parts that are still out there kind of circulating, like you can build like a period correct '05, Iron Horse if you wanted to, you know what I mean?
Yep. And the thing is too, like you said earlier, it's like everybody's trying to do the extreme with bikes. They're taking away from what the bikes are all about, with the stereo systems, or with who can put a bigger wheel on the front, whatever.
Or how fat they got on those choppers and stuff back then. Yeah.
And all that is, I think it takes away from what we're really trying to focus on, and that's just like the riding part of it, and like the soul of the bike. You know what I mean? And I don't think, like, a lot of the guys, like some of the guys you'll see in Galveston with the big wheel bike stuff, I think a lot of the guys are into it to just, I guess
it's keeping up with the Joneses stuff.
Right. Trying to show off who
it's
has
a money thing.
Yeah.
money, who has who has the biggest swagger, biggest
Yeah.
Oh, look at what I got,
Yeah.
I don't like that part of it. I like, more of the you do this because you're passionate about it, and you want this bike because it's a part of what you envision, or what, even if you don't build it and you have somebody build it, it's still your vision of what you want.
Yeah.
Versus I'm gonna put a $20,000 front wheel on my bike, and I'm cooler than you. It just takes away from it for me.
I think that, like, with that, in that same kind of vein, like what would happen is there's a lot of money in that world. So I understand like why some shops still provide services to that, because it keeps the lights on and whatnot. But I've always felt like it's a shop's job to push the identity and the trends, or I don't even like to use the word trends. Just push, like, re-educate your customers. They come in thinking this is all about like having a bigger wheel than your buddies, but like through the way you carry yourself, like that can inspire them to find a deeper passion for these motorcycles, right?
Right.
What I think really happens in that is when you get clashes, is when you got people that are really passionate about the bikes, the culture, and the motorcycles, and people that just have the money to buy the stuff to be in it, but don't really have any inclination to want to respect the culture of it.
Right.
Is where you get the big divisions, and that's when scenes kind of break up and they become kind of toxic, if you will.
I agree.
Which, being in this thing, in this industry for almost 20 years now, in January will be my 20th year, I've seen this happen like time and time again. I can tell you when Performance Baggers like really swept the nation, like it was a smaller, intimate group of us across the country that would go and ride and spend time together in a certain part of the country. And we've got these amazing memories and stories. And now it's kind of transcended any of us. It's so big that it's so much bigger than us core group of guys that were doing it, that we don't really exist in the idea of this to the new guy that's getting into it today.
Yeah.
Which is, that's the ego talking, right? Like,
Right.
Whatnot. But what you see is like this thing that you helped kind of like grow in some aspect, and then you also see how when they finally got it, it was like through almost like a game of telephone. Right. It's not what it started originally as, and now it's just this whole new thing, and you have no control over how that happens anymore, and you're kind of like just lose interest.
Yeah.
So the OGs tend to always kind of like disappear and let everybody fuck it all up, and they go away, and then we kind of come back out like, are they gone?
Yeah.
All right, let's get back on this cool shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's going back to Kirk Sharp. Like he was one of the OG guys that I met when I first met here. He had a garage full of choppers back then. Mm-hmm. You're looking at this white-haired old man that's seen more than we've ever seen. Been around choppers, all his life, hot rods, all that. And he had just kickers back in the day, and that was more of a grassroots. You ride to Oklahoma.
Oklahoma, yeah.
And camp out with your buddies for 3 days and, party. And
Yep.
I miss that. That's what really kind of made me gravitate towards the choppers as well, just like that community.
But when did you start getting to experience that type of stuff?
That was like 2008.
For real?
2007,
Damn.
2008. It's been a while.
Dude, that's awesome. I didn't know that some of those things like Just Kickers was around that long. Yeah. I know Born Free kind of started.
I might be wrong. I'm not good with dates, but it was early on.
Okay.
It was before I got my shovel head, and when did I meet you?
I want to say it was either 8 or 9.
So it was around there. It was around that time. It probably was about 7 or 8. I know. We used to go to Giddy Up.
Yeah.
First Giddy Up. We rode back roads to Giddy Up. It was all the same group of guys, which was, it's just experiences that I'll never forget. It's like just riding with these guys with a backpack and, duffel bag on your sissy bar, lean back and just kind of cruising down, these old roads. And it's just, that's what I really miss about it, and there's really not a whole lot of guys left in my area. So I don't enjoy riding in traffic. So I like, I like getting out
back roads.
I do. So when we have shows or we go, kind of like Galveston area, when we go to Galveston next week, riding out there with my buddies, I look forward to stuff like that just because just getting out of the city limits and trying to get out of city limits.
It's pretty much a city all the way there.
It's going to be crazy down there. So I haven't been anything like that in a long time. So I always try to gravitate.
Your bike will be on the display too, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I'm going to have 2. I have one with Michael Lichter's show, and then I'll have another at the High Tide show. Yeah, my buddies Daryl Borba and Eric Bond are putting that show on. They invited me out. And then Lichter talked to me about bringing a bike out. So
so the ones that'll be on the Strand, like that's where your bike, I'll have mine there on that. I don't actually have a way to bring more than one bike down there, so I'm just gonna be chilling. And to be honest with you, that's all I want to do. Wife's gonna come down the next day, and we're just gonna kind of like just chill. You know what I mean?
When you head down there?
I'm leaving Wednesday.
Okay.
So
I won't be able to leave till early Thursday morning.
Yeah, I'm gonna leave Wednesday because it's supposed to be cold. It's gonna be like the high is like 50 leaving Dallas.
Oh wow.
So I'm going to try to leave around noon, and then I think I'm going to link up with my buddy Rennie on the way down and, maybe just outside of College Station or something and try to stay off 45 and going through Houston.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I'm looking forward to that. And, yeah, I'll agree with you. Now that I am on this chopper, I kind of want to slow the fuck down and get off the main highway. When I left Born Free a week ago or so, man, I haven't done this on time, but I just wanted to do it. I didn't wear a helmet on the way back. I just wanted to cruise and get a little sunburn, and hopefully the helmet would make me slow down. Sometimes when I wear a helmet, I feel invincible, so I start riding faster. Yeah. Dude, it was amazing. It just felt fucking good. I could hear everything that was going on the bike, and I don't intend to do a lot of trips like that. I am a helmet guy, but I like that, and I want to stop. I want to have the time to enjoy the miles instead of hurry up and get there and not really have an experience on the way there,
That comes with experience on just learning how to chill and enjoy it. Because I was like that too. I was always I just want to get there and party, whatever we're gonna do, And last month we went August, sorry. We went to Broken Bow. I invited a bunch of my friends. We got a huge cabin out there and invited, a bunch of my buddies. And I tried riding my 46 Nuck out, but it kind of gave me a problem about 100 miles in. Got it fixed when we got to ride when we were down there. But just being on that old-ass bike on an open highway, going back roads.
Those roads are nice heading up there, yeah.
I guess
so I go through
area,
Paris and all that?
Yeah.
Yep. That road that goes from Paris to up to where Broken Bow is fucking nice.
Yeah. So
curvy.
We 3 of us rode, and the other guys trailered their bikes. So they were coming in from different parts of the city and out of town. And then Scott came in from Colorado, and so we had a really good time, man. And it felt so good. So I exactly know what you're talking about. Just being on a bike, feeling the wind, seeing your buddy next to you on the whole chopper as well. Just there's just no feeling surpasses that, man. To me, it just feels amazing. And then you're on this bike that was built in engine. It was, built in 1946. It's basically a tractor. Just knowing that thing's flying down the road, it's 70 miles an hour. It's just amazing, and you just feel everything. And it's just, I don't know how to explain it. If people know that ride old choppers and stuff, they know the feeling. Just like you said, you felt that.
And my shit's not old. It's just it has a stance. It feels like I'm on something. Mine feels like I'm on a West Coast chopper, like a El Diablo or something. Yeah. That's what mine feels like. But what I think that is important. What's important about what you're saying, in my opinion, is that all these other types of bikes and these other types of rides you've been on, you learn to kind of appreciate all these different ones. And I feel like there's no way you can do the same thing forever. You got to have diversity in like your motorcycle career or life or whatever.
Right.
And at this point in the culmination of everything I've experienced so far, like I want a chill ride. I want a few more days to take my time, and I want to stop at that cool ran down gas station and get a dope picture of it or my bike with it or whatever the case may be. And you just, we all like to post those memes like the journey. What is it? The journey is the ride, not the destination or some shit. And it sounds super cool. It's almost like they sent me to the wolves and I came back as the pack leader or whatever. It's that kind of shit, right, for bikers. But it truly is like one of those things. Once you slow down, that ride from here to Houston can become something more meaningful if you allow it, if you have patience, if you let yourself get off the main highway and give yourself time to go down these roads. I mean, you both, like Texas isn't like as scenic as what most people are going to put Colorado or California on, but man, when you get off the main highway, and especially some of these country towns you go through, it's got its own little allure to it, if you will,
Yep. And that's what I felt. Like we were going through Aubrey, and they have, I guess it's like the quarter horse capital of the world or something like that.
Yeah.
I saw some sign, I don't know. I might be wrong. But anyways, they had just a shit ton of quarter horses and these huge ranches, and just kind of, riding and seeing all that, and just kind of looking around and enjoying the bike and enjoying the scenery and enjoying the moment.
Yeah. Seeing your homie over there next to you.
It's just a different feeling, man. And then you forget about paying bills or what you owe or what you have to do at work. And you don't think about any of that shit. You just think about just riding and enjoying, and when you can do that, I think it's more memorable and enjoyable than, trying to haul ass, do 100 miles down the road, trying to get to your destination so you can drink some beer with your buddies,
Yeah.
I mean, that happened. That's fun too. But at the same time, enjoy it while you're getting there. Just take your time. And I would never do that before. And now I kind of just, even with life experiences now, you got to learn how to just chill the fuck out, man.
Yeah.
Because I used to be real impatient, let everything bother me, you know what I mean? And now I got to the point where, like, you know what? Like, the only thing that matters is what matters to me. Fuck everybody else. As long as I'm taking care of my family and my kids, fuck everybody else,
Yeah.
And I used to let a lot of shit bother me in the past. And it's like getting on a bike and be able to just release all that. There's no other feeling.
Yeah, this world, the motorcycle world, has always got its fair share of drama, and I like when people will say, like, oh, this is all high school shit. And I always say, like, man, I don't really think I don't think it's high school. I think it's just like, life is just drama. Like when you interact with other people, like, and you finally get to a point of having a different opinion about somebody within your own circles and groups, it just naturally inherently creates drama. And you see it in everything. I mean, fuck, you go to, you listen to your wife talk about something that's going on in her workplace. It's a high school drama. Yeah. You talk about something going on here. It's high school. Drama is just part of life. And it's like learning how to navigate that is also a skill of, figuring out how to, just be in that place and be present with it and know that, okay, this is going to turn into something bad. Let me see if I can like not throw gas on this fire, or let me see if, like, I even need to be in this circle anymore. You know what I mean? So,
well, you can also look at other people's perspectives of why are they doing this?
Be reasonable,
right? Yeah,
be reasonable.
Yeah, because I mean, if you let people drive your happiness, I mean, you'll never be happy. And the thing is, and when they do try to focus on bringing you down, like, you gotta be able to, like, turn that for the better, and that's a virtue.
Yeah.
You gotta learn. And it still fucks
it still hurts.
It still fucks at your head. It's sometimes hard to do. Sometimes you still get pissed off.
The thing, when it happens, you feel the same way that you would have felt if you were ready to go clap back. But the difference is allowing all this shit to happen, let it go through you and process, and don't react until you realize where you're at mentally, physically, and all that shit before you react to something.
Right.
Because if at 41 years old now, like, I know that feeling well enough to know that anything that I say while that feeling is in my fucking veins, it's not going to work well for myself. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's one of those deals, man. And, drama is just part of, it's just part of it, like, we're all putting a lot into this world of motorcycling. Some of us aren't at all. and drama comes from that. But for the most part, like we all have a vested interest, and you have opinions, and you know, sometimes we don't talk enough to get those opinions, you know, figure them out before they manifest too much in your head. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yep.
I think what happened, like I listened to a podcast you had did before, and you had kind of talked about some of that stuff. And, you know, honestly, like going through this process of building a bike, you know, it's funny how you see who clapped when you got it finished and who didn't, you know?
Yeah.
And once again, that to me, that could be a little bit of a arrogance or a little bit of a entitlement. Like, why didn't you do this or that? But then again, it's like, okay, well, fuck, man. Like, did you not, you know what I mean? Are you worried about some of the light being on me for once? Like, cause you loved it when it was on you and all that, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a weird one, man. It's, you know, I've never been involved in a bike customization like I just experienced. And I've like that feeling of going through that, like we were talking downstairs of how I couldn't sleep, and that, dude, that is,
it's intense.
It's intense, man. Yeah. And so everything is heightened, you know, when you're out, like when you're in that process, you know, heightened could be heightened on a bad way or a good way. I really couldn't tell you which one it is, but you're just really in tune with a lot of things going on. And, you know, you're trying, I think that the one thing I found in doing this bike is that it was the first time I felt like I was building a bike that I wanted only because of what I wanted and not because I was trying to fit it in a box that some bike scene made it, you know, it needs to fit in that. Right. And I would say that as I've looked at more and more of the vintage choppers and just the chopper world, I realize that more and more people are doing that same thing. They're building the bike they want to build. Now, that doesn't mean that I'm going to like every decision they made on it.
Sure.
Maybe the rear fender isn't that cool, but that's not my fucking bike.
Yeah.
It's not me. I didn't pay for it. You know, they didn't ask my opinion.
Yeah.
And if they're stoked, I think that my only job is to congratulate them on that feeling that they have.
Yeah.
Because now that I felt that before, I'm like, yeah, dude, I don't want to fucking piss on that at all.
Yeah.
Like you earn that feeling living that shit. You know what I'm saying?
And I feel the same way. Like I feel like there's a lot of talented builders out there that builds insanely cool parts. You know, I mean, they can build shit that I couldn't even dream of building. You know, and mills, and they have lathes, and they have all this badass
casting shit.
Yeah, like I can't do any of that. Like all the shit I do is with my hands in a fucking garage with fucking Harbor Freight tools. You know?
Yeah. If
I'm lucky, I might have a Craftsman tool. I don't know. But anyways, I try to do the best I can. But even, I guess, for what I'm trying to get at is even when you go to a show and you see some of these guys that have all these endless amount of hours on these bikes, and they have all the endless equipment that they can possibly have.
Yeah.
Some shit's just not that cool.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I mean, you can be, if you don't know how to put a bike together or you don't have style, I think it takes away from, you know, not saying talent, but I think showmanship or showmanship of the bike.
Well, yeah, I mean, not to be hypocritical in that same statement, because I do agree. That's kind of like the thing is like, I'll see a bike that I'm like, oh, they kind of missed it, you know? But then again, that's kind of one of those situations on my end where it's like, well, fuck, man, like, I don't want to take that feeling that dude had, because in his eyes, that might have been the fucking
his vision.
The shit, right?
Right.
But
and they might think it's the same shit about my bikes, like, I fucking missed the mark. But to me, you know, I feel like
I think that's the world.
I get that too. But.
No, I've said the same thing before, because I've met people that are the most amazing fabricators and talented people in the world, and when they have someone kind of they need like a conductor, and when they have a conductor, they really do blow people's minds.
Yeah.
But without a conductor, sometimes they have a tendency to only have tunnel vision in certain parts of the bike and not the whole bike.
Right.
And you know, being in the motorcycle industry, like I've ate off motorcycle shit for 20 fucking years of my life. Like that's how I paid my bills. So I've been drinking the Kool-Aid for a long time. I have no other taste for anything. Right. But now that's what I'm saying. Like I have been, you know, in the past, maybe more vocal than I think I'm ever going to be in the future, because of not having this experience that I just had. And now that I've had that, you know, I'm just going to keep my opinion to myself unless someone asks me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Now, if in my close group of friends,
Yeah.
you know, where I can say words that I'm not supposed to say,
Right.
I'm going to say, yo, I don't know, man, that shit was just not cool, or that was badass or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one of those things. I think that's what I learned in this process, because I carried that same mentality as well, you know.
Yeah. And I'm not trying to shit on anybody. I'm just, you know, just my opinion. And the other thing is that we're, you know, being fortunate enough to be in Born Free, you know, for a third time, being invited. There's guys I feel way more talented that never get the opportunity.
Yeah.
And I know that.
Oh, yeah.
And I know that. It's just kind of a luck of the draw, you know, like I was asked the first time, I did well, I won Founder's Choice that first bike, you know, and got asked back a second time, and then I didn't even know I was going to get asked this time. We kind of talked. I talked to Mike and Grant last year at Born Free, Texas, and they're like, "You going to build another bike for us?" I said, "Yeah. I mean, sure. Just let me know."
Yeah.
As far as it went, and then I got a call from Scott, and he's like, "Hey, did you see the list?" I said, "What are you talking about?" He goes,
"Oh
the
shit,
Born Free list." And I go, "No." He goes, "Go look at it." And my name was like, "Oh shit." So
yeah, and they didn't even ask you, like, they didn't even say, like, "Hey, heads up."
Well, no.
Damn.
No. And then called Daryl, because I knew Daryl had gotten picked, because we were in it, Born Free 12 together.
Oh, nice. They had that's a fucking pretty big list this time.
Yeah, there's some talented guys on there. You know, and going back to what you were saying about earlier, like, you know, you build a bike and you're not getting, you know, you see a lot of your so-called friends that, you know, they're not giving you any props for the bikes or whatever. Mm-hmm. You know what means more to me is seeing the guys that I looked up to, like, that are in the chopper world. Like, you know, a lot of these guys that have become friends over the years, just their likes, like, man, great job. And you're like, that's all I fucking need. You know, fuck everybody else. If you're not going to support me, you're supposed to be my friend, then that's your problem, not mine. And I learned, again, the virtue of learning how to just be happy and move forward and not worry about other people's opinions about yourself. Because a lot of it, I'm not saying it's envy. I'm not saying it's jealousy. I don't know what it is, but I would assume a lot of people don't expect me to. They don't believe I deserve to be where I'm at. But I know I deserve to be where I'm at because of my passion and my heart,
commitment,
and commitment to what I like building. And if you look at everything I build, all the bikes I build are different. Like, there's a lot of guys, they build period correct 60s choppers. Every time they build a bike, it's always the same. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that. But every time I build a bike, I get this vision in my head, and I think I'm fortunate enough that I can make that vision, you know, come to life. And I've done that. So it's a long chopper, a short chopper, or more of a kind of a club style chopper.
Yeah, yeah.
Like this last bike's got that kind of small bars behind the front, and something that I wouldn't normally ride for myself, but I wanted to push myself to do different things, you know, and that's just kind of where I'm at. Like, I'm always going to push myself.
That's not putting yourself in a box, though. That's the. I mean, not like you said, not to say that the guy that the 60 style chopper really speaks to him, but to give yourself the opportunity to explore all these different things and kind of blend the styles. I think my heart, like, being a very ignorant person in the world of the vintage chopper world, right? I've been in the solar system of this for the last almost 10 years now. But I still didn't understand, like, okay, well, why, you know, I get the idea of building something that's period correct and has this, like, swag to it and whatnot, but, like, do you ever feel like you're not leaving anything for someone else ahead of us to aspire to be? Like, oh, there's that one era where everybody was just they were trying to build something that already took place, but they never really left their own mark on it. And maybe that, you know, and I could be completely out of line here, but I think that there is kind of your own mark on it, right? A lot of these bikes that's been built through Born Free shows, there is somewhat of a mark because it's happening now.
Yeah.
And even though, you know what I mean? So I'm kind of conflicted with that in my head as well, because I would want to solely do something I think is like the mixture of what we are. And I think to bring it full circle, I think that is a mixture. I think that 60s chopper that's being redone now is kind of a regurgitation through the eyes of somebody now, right?
Well, I can tell you by experience, just being this for the long haul, you know, as long as I've been in the choppers and trying to be in this game or being in the game, my taste has changed. I used to like the really small, quick, nimble 60 style chopper with the high handlebars and the long pipes, and to never liked 70s style choppers, right? Never liked certain front ends, never liked just certain things. And I'm seeing the more I'm into this, and I see bikes, some really cool bikes out there,
Yeah.
and that's a Harman front end, or I never liked that front end, but if I did this to it, it'd be kind of cool.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm using on this bike now. So it's just like my taste has changed over the years for the style of bikes, but I try to take and going back to what you said, like this is just full circle. Everything that we're doing now has been done before. I mean, guys have done this stuff from the 60s and 70s. I mean, I'm sure a part that some guy has made today has been made in the 60s, just nobody ever knew about it. You know what I mean? And all we're doing is, like you said, putting our mark on something that's already been done and giving it your own flavor on top of what they've already done in the past.
Yeah.
And if you can do that and make a cool bike and be able to use, old technology and old builders' ideas and your ideas together and make something cool, I think
It's
that's
still kind of new, right?
Yeah, it's still new, yeah.
And that's kind of what I was like surface level. I was like, oh, you guys are just regurgitating something that's already existed. But then I wasn't thinking about how no matter what, even if you are trying to make it period correct, it's still going to have a flavor of now to it that was just kind of, out of sight, out of mind for me. But, to your point of like being stuck, I think that when I first allowed myself to say, because I was a sport bike guy when the chopper thing was really big back in the mid 2000s. So I was like, well, I guess, if I was going to pick a chopper, I would say I'm more of a Roland Sands kind of guy. He had a lot more of a performance, kind of racing style to his stuff. And then you got your Jesse Rooks and those kind of guys that had a different kind of board tracker style look to theirs. And then when the bobber thing got super big, I was like, okay, I could fuck with that. I never liked long bikes. I never liked long front ends or tall front ends. I just I wasn't into it.
Yeah.
Scott, Chemical Candy, that fucking the flat black one that he did and his whole setup and how he would look going down the road. I was like, I need to see somebody on the bike to visualize how it looks. And when I see it, I'm like, that motherfucker looks badass.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that front end's cool now.
Yeah. What's funny about that bike is the fins and everything that, when he redid that bike and he painted it that flat black with orange, the guy Clinton Wallace I was telling you about, Scott and I went to Clinton's shop, and me and all three of us worked on that frame and did all that work. And then he painted it. And that bike, I think, inspired a lot of guys because just the stance of that bike was almost perfect.
Yep.
Or not, to me, it was perfect. And the handlebars, the setup, the way he sat on
Yeah,
it.
he had his pack set up. I mean, he was just tighten in it the whole time,
And there's been guys that have recreated that bike or tried. And I've seen a couple that have managed to pull that off, and it looks almost identical. So, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
The people on the podcast that listen to this they've been hearing this word stance a lot, right? And I think that like you have two versions of the stance that you need to hit the mark. You got to hit the mark while it's sitting still and when you're riding it. And if you look badass riding it and it looks fucking badass when you walk up on it, then to me, like you're getting it. You got it dialed. Right. But some bikes just don't have. I would say this about big wheels back in the day. They would have this look when they were laid out, sitting straight up. When you walk up, you're like, God damn. Yeah. Then when you air it all up and get on the road and you look like you got a dirt bike, you know what I mean? Because this air ride's so high to clear all this fucking bags. Like you missed the mark on the riding aspect of it, right? Yeah. So, I think that like that's one of the things that Corey and I like really, really fucking like just kept hammering home is the stance of our FXR chopper, to fit that look that we want. Now, to take something, I feel like, I don't know, man, maybe it's kind of easier with a longer front end for me, at least, maybe because that's where I'm into that right now. Like that's
the stance.
Yeah. It's cause I'm so dialed in and looking for that right now. Cause if you were to ask me like your red bike, is that the knucklehead one, the red one? Yeah. If you were to say, hey, what do you think the stance needs to be on this bike? I haven't stared at those enough to figure that out for me. Right.
Right. Well, my thing when it comes to stance is exactly what you said. It's going to be the riding position as well, but more so when it's just sitting there. I always like my frames level. I don't like the front end.
I don't either.
Up or nose diving down.
Yep.
I like it to be level across the board. So that's the main thing for me. The other thing is how to handle, like when it's sitting there straight with the front end straight. how the sissy bar leans.
Yeah.
Like you don't, if your front end's like this, you don't want the sissy bar like, some guys have it straight up or, it's always about the angles and looking at it. And like you said, you can, like you look at a bike and the stance of that bike looks like it's going 100 miles an hour down the road and it looks right. That's what it's about for me. And then of course, when you're sitting in it and you build your seat pan and how it feels when you're sitting in it, your leg position, all that, like you said on Scott's bike, perfect example. When you're riding it, I mean, it looks fucking killer when it's just sitting there. But when you're riding it, you look like a fucking badass. Cause it's like you end the bike and you look comfortable and you lean back, and that's exactly what I try to go for.
So a lot of people kept asking me, coming off of this, we rode the FXR chop through Terlingua to Durango and then made it almost all the way home. I had to catch a ride in a trailer for a couple 100 miles, but other than that, everybody's like, dude, what's it ride like? What's it like riding? I was like, dude, it rides like like you're the baddest motherfucker alive. You can't not feel cool as shit when you ride this thing.
Yeah.
Does it hurt? Yes.
Yeah.
Is it really a good 200-mile a day kind of bike? Yes. Could you do 400? Yes. But regardless of all that, every time you're out on that stretch and you finally come into town, you're slowing down to the speeds 30 miles an hour through this town, like you see them looking out their cars, at the gas stops, like, and you're like, fuck yeah, I'm cool. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
There is something about that like when you're on a chopper or something in the vein of a chopper, you just like, there's not that many on the road.
Right.
So you're kind of like, it's a big fucking flag going down the road. Like it draws attention as opposed to if it was another set of baggers or another bagger. And I'm not saying I'm not trying to sound like all this shit's not cool anymore. Like bikes are cool all across the board, but man, I've never felt cooler in my life on a bike than I had felt on this FXR chop. You know what I mean?
Right.
I don't know. Probably like a dork, I think I'm 15 pounds lighter when I'm on it. And I feel like I have a six pack and probably like Brad Pitt, like with a, fuck with the jockey shift going around the corner, but nah, how you feel when you ride something, that's gotta count for something, right?
Well, I mean, just what you said. I mean, you're going to feel like a badass. You can feel cool. And that's the I guess, the persona of a Harley Davidson altogether, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's why guys buy them and go and buy get decked out in leather Harley Davidson headbands and jackets and everything because they feel fucking cool, But, I mean, there's guys like that. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that. They love bikes, obviously, but they love them for the different reasons than we do.
Yeah.
We love them because it's a passion for us.
Yeah.
For them, it's something else, whatever it may be. But
they might not have the kind of time to invest in it the same way we have.
Right.
So they're more surface level, like just enjoying what the initial bike provides, and we're in a fucking committed long-term relationship where we want to know I'm trying to do 23andMe with these bikes. You know what I'm saying? I want to know everything that's ever happened.
Yeah. But I mean, it also takes, when I'm on a bike, it also takes me back to my father. Seeing him right on the shovel head and kind of how badass I thought he was, because to me, my father and I didn't have a really good relationship growing up because I mean, he was running the streets and doing his thing, but at the same time, he was a cool motherfucker to me. Like he was a bad motherfucker. He was in Vietnam. He was a Ranger. He was it.
Yeah.
And then seeing him and my uncle on choppers or old shovel heads back in the day and cruising down, taking off, and me just watching them. They're like, I want to be that fucking cool.
Yeah.
And that's what I think about. I think about now I know how he felt. I get it. You know what I mean? Like especially when you're on your bike, and again when you're with your buddies and you're on these 50, 70-year-old motorcycles, and just wondering like, who rode this bike? What stories can this motorcycle tell me? Who had it before me?
Yeah, especially when it's a 43?
Mine's a 46.
46? Yeah, dude.
Yeah, and then I got my buddies as a 50 panhead, and we're riding side by side, and it's just the stories those bikes could tell, I wish I knew, it's just you think about all that, and it just again, it makes you feel cool, but at the same time, it kind of just I don't know, it makes you feel like you're floating on a cloud, man. Like, you know what I mean? Because there's nothing protecting you. I mean, And it's weird. Maybe you feel this way too, but I feel safer riding on my motorcycle when I'm on a back road than I do in a car. I feel like I have more control. And maybe it's because I'm feeling everything around me.
Yeah.
The bike and the vibration and the wind noise and the wind and, you know, just.
Yeah, all the senses are heightened. All the senses are heightened because you're using all of them. You know, you could smell the, you know, the area that you're coming through and feel the wind and feel the
fuel off your bike.
Yeah.
It's everything. You
yeah.
The
vibrations.
Get that same feeling in a car. You know, you're listening to music and all comfortable and AC, and on a bike you're either going to be in the sun or you're going to be cold. You know, so
Yeah.
it really depends. You know what day it is, but I don't know. It's just a different feeling, man.
It is. It is. I've always, you know, since day one of this podcast, I've told people, like, when you travel the country on a motorcycle, like, the country looks different. You know, it feels different. It smells different. It's so different. You know, and I love travel a lot. So I would prefer to drive anywhere in the country than fly if I have the time. And because of that, like, I love the feeling of coming into these small towns or driving these roads I've never done before. And the older I get, man, like we've been saying all night, it's like the older I get, the less I'm like, you know what, I think I'm going to just drive through the middle of New Mexico and Arizona to California instead of 10 or 40, right?
Yeah.
I have an extra day. I can, you know, take my time. And if I see some cool shit, I'll stop and take a picture of it and, you know, be a better story or at least a better experience, you know, if you will. But I mean, I think riding a bike has made me travel better in a car because I do have a tendency to, you know, not get so comfortable in the car that I forget that I'm traveling, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe the windows down or whatever. I don't know. I like traveling a lot. It's but the bike is definitely a 10,000% different thing. Yeah. The other thing that, like, bikes are, they're selfish, right? Like, it's not like a hot ride. You can build a hot ride and you take your old lady. Y'all can go to bike or to a, you know, a little drive-in or whatever. You can hit up a, you know, whatever. There's plenty of the cruise, all that stuff. But a bike is kind of like when your old lady's on the back, you're like, fuck, dude, this is not that comfortable. Like, I don't feel cool anymore, you know? Yeah. But, you know, when you're, you know, like, it's just not that. But I think that's why a lot of people have a hard time staying in the bike world when they do have families and they do get in that place, because it is kind of one of those hobbies that nobody else in the family gets to enjoy with them.
Right.
You know, it ain't a barbecue. It ain't a boat.
Right.
It ain't even a razor, like one of those, you know, off-road go-karts, whatever they do. You know what I mean?
Side by side.
Yeah, those. Off-road go-kart sounds better though, right? Yeah. But yeah, it becomes hard for, like, the older you get and the deeper your family connections become, if you've gone that direction, to be able to be on the road, to be able to go to Born Free and then come back for a week and a half and then go to Sturgis and then go to fucking this and that. And when you're, like, really wrapped up into this motorcycle culture, like, you want to be at all these things.
Yeah.
And you want to be at them all every year. That's the other part that sucks.
Yep. It's hard. It's expensive too.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, a lot of the guys that build bikes for these shows can attest to this. Like, a lot of it, it's more, again, I'm going to say it again, it's about passion and drive. Yeah. Because you're not going to, I mean, a chance of you winning a trip to Japan from Born Free is very unlikely.
Yeah.
I mean, you could, don't get me wrong, guys do win, but you got to go in their mindset like, I'm doing this for the love of building motorcycles and showing my art more than I'm going to Japan, which that's the mindset you should have. But I just getting invited is good enough for me. You know what I mean? Yeah. But it is expensive. And you know well more than I do. Traveling is not cheap. Yeah. You know,
well, the way that
hotels and driving and gas and building a bike is, I mean, it's not.
So that's kind of like, you know, what we talk, even with my wife, I'm like, I always tell her, like, babe, I wish you could just travel the way I travel. We could see the whole world. Yeah. Because when I travel is like, you know, if I don't stop and get a hotel by 12 a.m., then I'm sleeping in a gas station parking lot. Yeah. You know, or I'm you know, whatever the case may be. It's like I'll roughneck it for a couple of nights or take that offer to sleep on somebody's couch in the middle of nowhere. I mean, I've stayed at people's houses before. I was like, man, this dude might kill me, dude. This is weird. I met him on Instagram. You know, it's like kind of weird, but they're being chill. Yeah. I'm going to sleep with my, you know, whatever. But then again, like, fuck, dude, like on this trip recently, I had an amazing thing happen where I broke down. This guy, Scott from Albuquerque, saw my story real quick, and within me breaking down, him seeing the story that I put out, and him being on the road to come pick me up was like 30 minutes.
Damn.
And then lo and behold, this dude's got a fucking decked garage full of FXRs and a Road King.
Oh shit.
That I can cannibalize to get, because I had my twin cam was out of a newer twin cam touring model.
Yeah.
Pick this up. I'm in the fucking car. He calls his wife and tells him to get some Blake's, which apparently is a burger joint out in Albuquerque that's known for putting like Hatch chili on everything. Good stuff. And so we couldn't have asked for a better night. Met a rad dude and his wife, got a free place to stay, got to work on the bike and get it figured out, and then borrow one of the parts off his bike to make sure that mine worked. And then the dude rode with us to Durango the next day. It was fucking amazing. Like, you literally, I would have paid for that experience. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And it's just wild how that kind of thing happens by being that. I think it's by just being a cool person, like, trying to be that for other people as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think that's part of it too, is being humble about, being artistic or being in your situation. People realize that and realize what you're doing, and obviously he reached out to you. So, I mean, that works out.
Oh yeah.
There's still good people out there.
There is. And that's kind of the thing that I was talking about with him, is like, man, I really don't like Instagram these days, but I still am a slave to it. You know what I mean? And it's things like this where I'm glad that Instagram was still there to allow us to meet each other. Cause I mean, the dude, like, I could see us being friends. This dude was like traveled the world playing, bands. He's in the movie industry building sets. Like, wow. Dude's fucking cool. His wife's cool as shit too. And I'm like, dude, like, now I want to go to Albuquerque and just mob the streets with these guys, bring the wife out, you know what I mean? But I mean, that's kind of it with that. But the other thing, like, I noticed that once I kind of met you for the second time, like through like coming into the chopper scene, the chopper supply and all that stuff, it's like I started noticing, just your involvement with like the stuff you were doing for the magazines. And was it more than just one? Like, you did stuff for...
I did Chop Cult, and then I've helped Choppers Magazine.
Okay, Choppers. Because you still do that right now with Chopper stuff, right?
With Chop Cult, they got bought out by Throttle Addiction. And so my connection there is no longer there. So I worked with her for a long time, and so that kind of went out the window when she left. But I worked with them for, in 2013.
How did that come about? Like,
so the Ironhead, she reached out to me, and I guess she saw it on Instagram. And
Chop Cult started as a blog, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Started off a blog, and then they started doing like a classified, and then they started doing like online community type thing. And so basically, I'm trying to think, 2009 or 10, I think, when the Ironhead got finished. And they reached out, or she reached out to me, Lisa Ballard. She reached out to me and asked me if I want to do what do you call it, like a
editorial kind of thing?
Yeah, online about the bike and pictures and stuff. And she's like, she was real busy. She's like, hey, I'm kind of running behind. If you want to write something for me, just give me a couple of details and I'll finish it off. So I wrote for her. And when I was in college, I used to do sports editorials. I worked it was like an elective. So and I was always pretty good at writing. So I wrote the story on the bike, and she said, damn, you're pretty damn good. She goes, you should write for us. I said, well, just let me know. Just on a whim. And then she reached out to me, and she's like, have you ever done photography or anything like that? I was like, no, not really. I mean, I could take pictures, but I've never been into it. And she said, how's the scene in Dallas and Fort Worth, in Texas? And so we started talking, and she wanted me to start writing editorials for her and like finding cool bikes and then doing, features on them. And that's kind of how it started. And I just kept kind of going with it. And I got real busy and couldn't do writing anymore, but I was sending her pictures or sending her bikes that I thought were cool, and then she would, work with that, or I'd go to the booth and help her out. And then, it got me involved in a lot of, like, I guess with Grant and Mike and getting my name out there, you know, they knew
behind
me.
the scene,
So
the
I'm
behind the
thinking-
scenes stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm thinking that, you know, kind of help get my name out there. And,
Oh, yeah,
and my,
for sure.
And my work. So she had a lot to do with that.
Yeah, that man, I don't know. Like I've been talking about it a little bit lately, but I feel like the way social media has kind of become, I miss and I wish people would do blogs again. And I've been trying to do my own and I haven't had a chance to really get much out lately. But I find that like the connection through the blog and like me, because when you're like we are, which I'm assuming we're pretty similar. When we're interested in something, we want to just consume ourselves with that topic or that thing, right?
Right.
And I just wish that like I used to see some of the old blogs where they were like kind of things that they wrote out, and then it turned into like, hey, here's a couple cool pictures from the internet. Here's this, and it just got less and less involved. It became more of a job for the person to do it, so that you're not really reading someone's like their perspective of something or their experience behind something. And that's kind of what I want, because social media used to be about showing the behind the scenes of this brand's life or this individual's life, and then it became what it is now, where it's like it's all like something's for sale.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like everything has got some kind of angle to it for sale, and so I think I miss the connectivity to something more, just more, I don't know, spiritual, if you will. That sounds gay. Probably. I don't know what the word is I'm looking for. Just something like, I don't want to be sold anything. I just want to be. I want to read something that inspires me.
You want something to inspire and like connect.
Yeah.
Have a connection with. Yeah.
I mean, magazines have, the mainstream magazines have mainly gone away, which I'm okay with, because once I found and discovered some of the things like Dice and, Show Class, which I miss, and some of these more underground magazines, they feel more personal. They feel like that band that you saw one day at a small bar, and they fucking go hard, dude. And you kind of want them to grow, but you don't want them to grow so big that now you can't afford the tickets anymore. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's one of those. And as someone that loves photography and practices it myself, like I find that those magazines, these ones I'm talking about, these underground magazines, seem to hold more of an art connection to their approach of showing the world what's going on, and the more modern magazines tend to just be like about content. It's like it's not about quality, it's about quantity. And I don't know, man. That's just kind of where I'm at with that.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
I mean, all types of content is turned into, like, even YouTube. Like, I love YouTube and I watch a lot of people's shit, but the algorithm, daddy algorithm wants you to make a YouTube video every week. And how do you make a good, inspiring YouTube video every week and it not turn into shit? I mean, you might have a good idea, a handful of good ideas that can last a month or two, but you're not going to be able to pop off 56 weeks of YouTube videos. They're going to be amazing.
Yeah.
I'd rather just get 8 really good things and, go from there. So I don't know, man. It's a weird one, but the writing thing though, like I've never been able to read real much. Like you're reading this and then you fucking like start thinking about something else. I'm like, fuck, I don't remember the last chapter. Oh, what am I reading? What are we doing here?
Yeah, right.
I was just doing this thing, but I was somewhere else in my head. And just the last couple of months, I feel like I've been able to sit down and focus. Like I didn't do anything differently. Just something changed. I guess the desire to want to, or to want something different to happen.
Yeah, it comes with patience, because I'm the same way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't have I don't even have the patience to sit there and watch a movie all the way through. I like get bored, Unless it's something like oh wow, this is a really good movie.
Yeah.
If it's half-assed, I'm like, I'm gonna go to the garage.
Yeah.
Or my mind's kind of spinning on what I'm gonna do this bike, or what I got to do tomorrow, or what I got to do at work. It's like that's just how my mind works, and I think that's a lot. We talked about that earlier. It's just like when we're focused on something, even when you're trying to go to sleep, you can't sleep because your mind is just racing on. How can I do this? How can I do it better? What can I do instead of doing this? It's like, and that's been my, I guess, worst enemy is that part of it, and finally I just turned 50 in May. So I'm about to be 51 and a few months, and it's like the older I get, I learn better patience, not only for myself, but like with my kids and with, relationships. So, although I suck at relationships. I'll just be honest with you on that. But, but more so for my kids, because I have two older kids. They're 26 and 23. And, I was a young father. I was playing in a metal band, traveling and coming home and trying to be a father. It just didn't work. Like I didn't know how to be a father, especially when my father was kind of void. So I guess as you get older, you start realizing the importance, just like even like we talked about earlier, like just being on the road and having patience to enjoy life and having patience to be a better person, father, whatever. It's a kind of a virtue you learn as you get older. And I think it comes with everybody, because I don't know if you feel like this, but you're young and you want to be the cool guy and have the coolest clothes, or you want to fit in with everybody. Like, I want to be cool and have to have, but as you get older, you really don't give a shit about that. All you care about is like what's important to you, or to your family. And again, it comes with like patience and just being happy with where you're at. And I think that's helped me a lot the last few years.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I can agree with it. I had my daughter, I think I was 18 when she was born. And I've commonly said on this podcast, like, me and my daughter grew up together. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's a different experience, man. But, my daughter's 21. She'll be 22 in January. And she's, she just shipped off to the military like last week. So super proud of that. Yeah. But like, I don't know, man. Like it's tough. I think it's weird. I think it's, what I like about the fact that I've got kids. I had them young. I'm 41 years old. I got a 14-year-old going on 15 right now. That's kind of a pain in the ass, but he's a cool dude. I've got to experience that. Yeah. I've got to experience what it's like to be a father. I've got to experience what it's like to see a kid graduate, see a kid go to college. I'm getting to experience what it's like to have a kid in this day and age, and the mentality that he and the shit that he's like navigating in his own world of his age, right? And so for me, it's all like perspective. It just I'm learning as much from my kids as I think I'm trying to instill in them. You know what I mean? And so, with them, I think I heard you say on your podcast, like, your kids just don't really care about the bikes. Not all of them. Was there any of them that did?
My oldest daughter showed interest when she was little. I was really into like the biker build off stuff when she was growing up. She's little, so she tried to have a connection, or that was our connection, motorcycle and watching biker build off together. And then she just grew up, and friends were more important. My oldest son, he's kind of an introvert, so he's a little different. No interest in motorcycles or any of that stuff, or mechanical.
I would feel like the introvert would fit on the motorcycle the best. You can escape from the world, but have all the excitement of it.
Right.
Yep.
And he's never showed interest. And I have a 14-year-old daughter, which her and I, again, learning from my mistakes, I have two younger children, a 14 and a 9-year-old.
Yeah.
A 14-year-old daughter and a 9-year-old son. And my 14-year-old daughter is probably shows the most interest. But, I mean, not to the point where I want to learn how to build a bike, but more like she puts me on a pedestal with her friend. Like, my dad's in magazines, he's a rock star, and he's this, and he's that, and it makes you feel good as a father, that at least one of your kids feels that way.
Yeah.
She's super talented, super smart kid.
It's funny because that's exactly how my daughter is. Yeah. She's like she did a career or some deal, and where she did some deal on me for her school a long time ago. But when my son, sometimes I get him in the car, like I pick him up from school. I'm like, hey man, he's like, what's up? I'm like I'm like, dude, I'm kind of famous, right?
Yeah. Yeah. What does he say?
He's like, yeah, Dad, you say it all the time. And I'm like, well, not like famous, but like famous in like, certain worlds, and he's like, he didn't give a shit, dude. Yeah. He didn't care.
Oh my.
Every once in a while though, I get real fucking lucky though. We'll be somewhere like out, and some dude will run up to us. Oh, dude, I follow you on Instagram, dude. I love all the shit you do. Love the podcast. And my son's like, all right, that was cool. Yeah. I'm like, see?
Yeah.
It's a weird thing, right?
Yeah. And my youngest, he's kind of introverted as well, but he's super smart. The kid's 9 years old, and all he cares about is like learning,
Yeah.
but like learning in a good way, not learning about motorcycles or anything. But same way, he's like, oh, that's cool, Dad. And that's about it, So it's like, it sucks having 4 kids and 2 boys, and they don't give a shit about motorcycles or anything I do, But again, my daughter, she's more of the team player, like my dad's cool, and it makes you feel good. But she's always like, yeah, I told my dad, Oliver Peck, and he's one of your best friends, and Scott, what about me,
Yeah.
But she's like, why no, Dad? Like, I tell them to Google your name, and motorcycles come up and your face and pictures of you. So she thinks it's cool. But I guess, I mean, for a kid, I mean, if my dad was, if I was growing up, my dad was like, I'd be proud as fuck. I don't get it, but I guess these kids are different nowadays.
Oh, they're 100% different. I mean, like, we're 10 years apart essentially, and we grew up with like not the internet, so not this much information. So we gathered things, and lesser cool things became way cooler. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So, I would say that like, if my dad would have had any kind of the like career that I've had so far and had any kind of magazine coverage, I'd probably be way more proud of, not that I'm not, whatever. I don't have the best relationship with my dad either, but like, I wouldn't be, I don't know. I'd be cool. Like, hey man, that was cool that you did that. And you finished something in life. You created something. Like, that's something that I can, as an adult now, I can respect that another man finished something, It'd be crazy how many people never finish something,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, my son, obviously what I've always said is like, look, I try to find the things that my kids are into, and I try to nurture those things, because if anything, I just don't want my kids to grow up and feel like I belittled their interests and hobbies, and I know how like empowering it is when you have somebody in your family that's supporting you in your like ideas and dreams and goals. Because I wouldn't say that my dad was not supportive of me, but he had a friend that I just connected with. When I would go to my dad's on the weekends and this guy was around, he was interested in like my art that I was trying to draw. And he was like, man, we need to get you some of these kind of markers. Like, it felt like he thought about me when I wasn't around. Right. Yeah. So it's all these kind of nuanced little things that like I noticed and remembered about my childhood that I try to like implement on my sons that just made me feel, I don't know if they're going to work, cause maybe the game has changed too much, but it's a weird one, man. I just don't want my kids, I don't want to be my kids' problems in therapy when they get 40 years old.
Right. And the weird thing is, my 14-year-old daughter, she was 9 and she started drawing. And she's a phenomenal drawer. Like, just her perspective of drawing and like angles and just people can't like draw noses that are fucking 10 years old. Yeah. And this kid was drawing like quality drawings, and I showed Oliver, and Oliver's like you need to learn how to tattoo. He's like, he told her like he's like, dude, she's very talented. Like, you need to keep on her. And she's a teenager now, so she's into boys and stuff. So drawing is not important to her anymore. Yeah. And at one point, she's like, I want to tattoo. I want to, because Oliver's like, he's like, don't go to school, just learn how to draw. Yeah. And he goes, and you can apprentice under me. And he's never apprenticed anybody. And he told her that, so it stuck with her for a long time. She was drawing all the time and doing all these amazing drawings, and then it just kind of like fizzled out. So she has that talent, and it's crazy that her mother's kind of talented as well. Like, as far as like
creative,
very creative. Yeah. So she's kind of taking that from both of us, I guess. I don't know, but I just wish she would keep drawing, because I think like the quality of work that you do, I think she could be there if she would have kept going. So it's just hard.
I think I did the same thing too. I think I drew comics a lot. Like, I would draw what I'd see, kind of thing.
Yeah, she do anime.
Yeah, same. I well, not same. My kids would kind of get in that. I think it was just the difference in time, right? Because anime wasn't really a thing when I was a kid. It was like Ninja Turtles and fucking Wolverine, right?
Right.
And I lost interest in it, as I became a young adult or a later teenager. I was playing basketball, I was doing all that shit, but when it was raining outside, and so my daughter's name is Rain, and a lot of people ask why I named my daughter Rain. I was like, well, because when it rained was the only time I was creative. The rest of the time I was a normal kid. I was playing basketball and chasing girls, but when it was raining, I was stuck in my room and I would draw, and I would rearrange my room fucking twice a month because I'd be like, oh, well, if my bed was there, then that might be kind of cool. I've always customized shit. I've never been okay with things staying the same.
Same thing here.
Yeah.
You get a brand new bike and I had to change the tire.
Dude, I remember I bought
change the grips. I've always been that way.
I got a fucking, you remember Dyno GT? Or was that what they were called? The Dyno GT? Yep. I remember my dad used to force me to go work like sand because I grew up in a body shop, but my dad had a body shop. So in the summertime, I wanted to go play basketball and go to summer camps, but I'm like fucking child labor, right? So I'm doing this shit. Yeah. And so he like would give me like Scotch-Brites and I'm sanding parts. Or I remember getting fucking aircraft strippers in my eye, like the aircraft stripper stuff you put on fenders to like eat the paint off. Yeah. And literally think like, dude, why the fuck do you have me here? Yeah. Do you see I'm blind now, motherfucker. Like I can't, just pissed, right? And I remember going in the garage one day and there was some steel wool in there and I had just got this Dyno GT and it was all chrome. So I pulled all the stickers off of it and I just like scuffed it up so it looked kind of like nickel, right? Yeah. And I just remember how cool it felt when I rode it to the basketball court and everybody was looking like, damn, like what's that? Like I've never seen one like that. Yeah. I was like, well, you gotta know some things, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And it was funny because that bike got stolen one day it got stolen at a Burger King. You remember this burger called the Rodeo Burger from Burger King? It had like onion rings on it. And I remember we stopped in the Burger King one day to get it. And I walked out, just Burger King, in and out, bike's gone. I found out that some dude's dad stole the bike for his kid in my neighborhood. And so this kid rode the bike to the basketball court that I played at, and my shit's all scuffed up and it's a different frame. So I'm like, the fuck? And so I had all my homies from the back, we were about to beat the shit out of this kid. Yeah. And then his dad runs out of nowhere and starts kind of, we're still kids and shit. So we probably could have took him, let's be real. But my bike got stolen twice in front of me. You know what I'm saying? It was crazy. Yeah. But yeah, that just brought up that memory of that shit. But,
Yeah, I did the same shit. I had a Diamondback.
My buddy had one of those.
It was like a flat gray, like how they're doing like Toyota's trucks now. That
flat, yeah.
I guess it doesn't have metallic in it or anything. Kind of just flat.
Yeah, just
the clear over it. Mm-hmm. It was that color and had pink Diamondback stickers on it, shit. And I had to fucking change it. I bought pink rims and pink grips, and I was always trying to be different. And then I was also very like, I don't know what the word is, that OCD or whatever, like when you're like, oh, I can't have a scratch on it.
Yeah.
Like I would ride it and do all, I'd fucking freestyle and do all the shit on it, and then I'd get a scratch on it. It'd fucking like just eat at me. Like, oh my God, it's got a fucking scratch on it. Like that shit always bothered me when I was a kid. It was like, I always wanted everything perfect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the same thing, I always had to change everything. I could never leave anything alone. I always had to change something. I'll buy a cap and it's like, it'll have like, I like the cap, but I hate the fucking patch. I'll fucking put another patch on it. I'm still like that. I don't know. It's always been like that.
Certain things.
I guess it kind of goes in line with customizing bikes, like trying to put my own version of it together.
I mean, if you really think about it, like customizing stuff is not that big of a culture. No. I mean, it's a big culture if you're in it and everything around you is this, but if you compare like what we do to bikes versus the general public that buys bikes that will never buy anything other than what comes off. Yeah. Or, like unique individual stuff is always I don't know. I like that. I like the fact. I remember also as a kid, like playing basketball, this was kind of before the shoe craze really took off because I played sports and wore the shoes that are now all the retro shoes that people buy and redo now. And the crazy thing about that was we used to because I worked in a body shop, I kind of knew how to tape things off and whatnot. So we would get spray paint and we would customize our shoes. Oh, wow. And just by taping off on the sole, we'd have like an all red and then a black bottom. And then I go to the basketball court and it's spray paint. It's not going to stick. So you look good for the first couple of games. And then next thing you know, they're all cracked up and everything. Yeah. But it was just like this really badass feeling of like being out there on the court and your shoes look like nobody else's on the court. Like you were this unique individual, and that I guess that stuck with me always, you know. And I've always just felt like I wanted to take whatever, I wanted everything that I owned to have its own twist to it, if you will. And
like your uniqueness to it.
Yeah. And I've always been drawn to anything that is unique, like anything, people that carry themselves that way, you know. On a recent kick, you know, it's a weird one. Maybe you can attest to this, but like as you know, traveling the country a lot and going and meeting people, going in and doing podcasts with them in their homes, and you meet somebody that, you know, you're like, oh man, like I didn't know you were into bikes this much, because your whole house is like in decor of like you, the culture that you're in.
Yeah.
And I'm like, because I got homies that are balls deep in motorcycles. You go to their house and they got Target paintings and shit on their walls of cows and stuff, and you're like, you just think that's normal, right? And then you go to someone else's house and you're like, man, like, damn, you got a poster from, you know, Harley Davidson and Marlboro Man over there. It's in your fucking living room, dude. How'd you get your wife to sign off on that? You know what I mean? And I just feel like I wanted, and that's kind of where I'm at right now. I'm in this process of really making my house feel like it's my fucking house, or me and my wife's house, right? Yeah. And we bought a bookshelf. I was about to post a picture of it today. We bought a bookshelf, and I finally, all these books and these really nice magazines I've been buying, I'm like decked it all out, and I pass it every day, so I'm more likely to pull one off and go check it out and just flip through it for a minute, instead of like having it here where I'm only in here when we do podcasts. You know what I mean? And so I was like, I got all my books up. I got a helmet on there. I got a couple like cameras on there, and I'm like, babe, like you got to have something on here. So my wife walks out with her bong. She goes, put this up there. I'm like, fuck yeah. Cause my wife's a stoner. So she was like, I was like, this is cool. Yeah. I want people to see this shit. Yeah. You know, I want my son to see it. You know, I don't want my son to smoke weed right now, but I want him to know that like, it's okay if you do, you know, eventually, you know.
That's how my house is. I have kind of a mixture of things, you know. I really into like old antique, like wood pieces and gates and stuff like that. So I have funny story. My dad passed away, and he would go to festivals all the time. And he was a gunslinger. I don't know if you know what that is. So they would put on like a Western show, and at the end of the show, one of them would get hung. You know, like they fall, but it was like all like, you know, all staged, and they were shooting real guns, but they were blanks. Yeah. And my dad had this 44 Magnum, and the holster and belt and with the bullets and all that shit and buckle. He was a bull rider. So when he passed away, my stepmom gave me all this shit. So nice. I went to Utah with Oliver when he opened up a tattoo shop up there at the Legends Motorcycle Museum.
Okay, yeah.
So we went up there, and he likes antiques, so we went to his antique store, and they had this old gate that had like a flat iron with these hooks where I guess it hooked onto to the hinges, but it was like the wood was all like decaying, and part of it was all gone. So I was like, that'd be a badass piece over my mantle. So I used to hunt a lot too when I was a kid. I grew up in a small little country town, so we used to hunt and do deer hunt, hog hunt, and do all that.
You're from South Texas, right? Yeah, so y'all got way more deer down there than we got up here.
Yeah, and my family has 168 acre land right outside of Yorktown, Texas, which is in between. Yorktown is in between Corpus, about an hour and a half from Corpus, an hour and a half from San Antonio.
Okay, so right in the middle.
Center. So,
is that still considered the Rio Grande Valley at all, or not? So. Not really. Okay,
no, that's not. I don't believe. No. I think that's Victoria, isn't it?
I don't really know, to be honest with you. I just know like Matt Jackson's more from the Rio Grande Valley, and I've heard him talk about it, and a lot of people talk about it, but I don't know a lot about South Texas, to be completely honest with you.
Yeah, but so we did a lot of hunting, so I had a lot of like deer skulls and horns and shit. So my house is decorated like with that, and then all my trophies and posters and stuff for my bikes and stuff in my whole house. So it's kind of a mixture.
Does your old lady stay with you?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, it's just me.
It's all you then, huh?
It's just me, yeah. And then
it's so easy when it's that way.
Unfortunately, I have two wolf dogs. I just got a puppy not too long ago. That little fucker has destroyed my house. He tore up my couch, tore up my fucking ottoman, chewed it up. We went out and came back home, literally like an hour and a half, and he had chewed up quarter of the ottoman apart.
Wow.
And then the other day, chewed up. And these are leather couches
Yeah.
I've had for years. So he's kind of destroyed my house, and that shit bothers me. Like I like my house all like.
Yeah, you're OCD.
Order. Yeah.
Yeah.
And just seeing that, and then both of those dogs, they go in and out. I have a dog door.
Okay.
And he has destroyed my backyard. Like I have no grass left. It's all dirt and mud now. It's like, so I got to deal with that shit. So, but to the point, yeah, my house is decorated kind of like a mixture of like country, hunting, my dad's shit, like
Yeah.
kind of a, a shrine for him, and then like my motorcycle shit's all in my halls, like all my posters and you've seen, well, kind of like, I don't know if you have them, but like if you get a magazine,
Like centerfold type stuff. Yeah.
feature they put on that behind that plastic and has like all the pages on there. So I
Yeah.
get those done, and I have several of those up. So I mean, it's kind of a mixture of
Yeah.
like both, everything I like, anyways, right now.
Yeah, well, I think it's important to do that, and I started thinking about it where am I creative at? I'm creative when I'm around things that I feel like inspire me, and so I kept telling my wife, I was like, I think I'm, next year I want to make a lot of changes, so I feel like I'm going to be at home a lot more, and I was like, well, I want to make this house feel like an inspiring place to be, and so I needed to have things in it that inspire me. I need to have the music band poster on the wall that I like. And I'm like, I'm a fucking adult. Why am I not allowed to put a band poster in my living room of my favorite band? You know what I mean? So I bought this Deftones poster, and it's got this like cat like yawning, right? And it's just dope. It makes no fucking sense, but my wife's a cat chick, and I like cats too. I love a dog. I just don't have the time to raise a dog, if you will. So I'm like, babe, look, all right, it's Deftones, but there's a cat. So like, look, I feel like it's a good balance, right? I just need to see Deftones, and I'll think about, okay, I want to listen to one of my favorite songs from them. Yeah. And so like by seeing these things that inspire me, it makes me think about them and puts me in places of more inspiration, as opposed to coming home and being in a house that doesn't feel like it is me. Right. Yeah. So I just actually released a podcast with Michael Lichter yesterday or the day before, but I had recorded that on the way to Sturgis, and I spent a whole day with Lichter riding, going up to the mountains, hanging out in his house. He was showing me all the gifts from his friends over the years. Like he has a original Bike Riders cover. Like it was either a photo or it was something from the original Bike Riders book from Danny Lyon, or not. I don't remember the whole story because it was kind of like it's beer right now, right?
Yeah.
But there was a story where that was a gift from a friend, and it was framed in on the wall. And I'm just thinking to myself, like that's your life. Like your walls and the shelves in your house should be filled with your life.
Right.
Because it'll make you appreciate your life, and it'll make you inspired because of the people that you have in your life.
Right.
So if you hide all these things and you put them on fucking Instagram, and you have to go see who the fuck you are on Instagram instead of waking up and walking to the kitchen and seeing who you are, like that's where I'm at right now. I want to change that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, exactly. And that's kind of how I am. I want people to see my accomplishments because I'm not real big at. I think I'm pretty humble. I don't go around like, oh, I'm I'm a born free builder. I'm badass because I don't think that at all. Yeah. Like I said, I'm just fortunate. But I want people to kind of see my accomplishments. People that are allowed in my house, there's a reason. It's because they're my friends, my family, and I respect them enough to have them in my home. And when they see that, they can see my accomplishments because I don't go around. A lot of people are like, oh, I didn't know you built bikes. I don't do that. I don't go around bragging about it, and it's like, and also, the reason I kind of treasure those, like the posters and all the things I do, is because I want it to be a legacy for my kids.
Yeah.
And not for anybody else, but my kids, my grandkids. When I'm gone, be like, yeah, your grandfather used to build bikes. He was in magazines. He did this. He's like, really? That's kind of cool. I mean, just like I like hearing about my grandfather being a fucking airborne soldier in World War II, and he fucking from a little country town went through World War II, and he made it back home. Yeah. Being 17, 18 years old. My dad was a ranger in Vietnam, making it back home from a small town. I mean, just their accomplishments, is like means a lot to me.
Yeah.
So I want to have that legacy for my family and my kids, you know what I mean? My grandkids. So it's like, that's why
I get that.
I try to keep that.
The thing that sucks is when you bring up the concept of legacy. I've talked about this for years on the podcast, and I think a lot of people don't ever think about legacy. They don't understand like why they kind of chalk that up with like some kind of like ego or arrogance or whatnot. It's like, no, it's like, it's not that like, I think we all want to be respected and like appreciated from the people that we love and people we care about. Right. And so when you like create and you do these things in your life, you hope that it like garners your family some kind of wealth. Like maybe you don't own a fucking McDonald's chain by the time you die, but you got fucking 5 knuckleheads that can probably put your grandchildren through college, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So there's different ways of being helpful to your family.
Right.
And I think that for us in the world of motorcycling, it's like, like, hey, I don't know. I got this thing, right? At 40 years old, I've a long time ago, I spent time in a VFW, like with a chick I dated, and her mom always kicked it at the VFW, and the VFW has cheap drinks, so we used to go up there. And I like listening to people's stories and listening to them tell me stuff. And when you start to really listen to people and listen to their regrets, and they'll be 55 years old and they'll be talking as if their life's over. And I'm like, well, man, like, dude, like, what's your goals? Like, what's your dreams? Yeah. Goals. I'm 55 years old. I ain't got no fucking goals. I'm like, damn, you stop living when you stop dreaming. Yeah. You stop living when you stop having goals. And I think that's, I've talked about it before where like, I might not be as great of a parent as I wish I could have been, or maybe someone else's, but man, if I can just inspire my kids to keep going the same way you talked about your dad, I don't think that he inherently thought he was inspiring you as he rode his fucking, shovel head down the road, but he did. And it kept that image in your head and here you are, not a fucking fuck up. Right. Yeah. So you just got to hope that we have that, right? Yeah. If you will.
Yeah. And the thing is like you said, legacy, like not being arrogant or anything like that. But how many stories do you wish you could hear about like your grandfather or your great grandfather or know his life? But but on top of that, maybe you could hear the stories, but you could also see visual pictures or a magazine that he was in and read his story. Not only hear it, but you see it. I mean, dude, and that's what I'm trying to do.
It's kind of heavy, man, but like I started this podcast in 2018 and then my grandfather died in 19. And the whole time when he got stage 4 cancer, I kept telling myself, Jace, go record something with him. Let him tell you about his life. And I'm like, I'm scared to, and I fucking hate myself for not doing it. It's one of those like weird things that like, this technology we have right now could be very useful in different ways than we consume it for. But dude, I wasn't ready, for that one.
Yeah. Well, the same here. My mom was very loving. My stepdad came in the picture when I was 8. He's not a loving person, but he's a fucking great man. Like he inspired me to be, probably him and my grandfather inspired me to be the person I am today. Mm-hmm. They were both good men, and they still are, or my stepdad still is. I mean, he's raised me like I was his son, and he raised my kids like they're his own grandkids.
Yeah.
Like the grandpa and he's like there.
He plays a role. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he plays that role, and you would never be able to tell that they're not his blood grandchildren. Mm-hmm. My dad, it's another story. The guy never told me he loved me, never told me he was proud of me, and it kind of fucks with your head.
Oh yeah.
I mean, and to the point where it fucked with a lot of my relationships too. Because I'm like, I don't know how to love.
How you're supposed to.
How do you have a child that's your blood, and you can't even tell this kid that you're proud of him for what he's accomplished, and you didn't fuck up. I'm proud of you. Never went to jail. I'm proud of you. You never, I've never had to go get you out of a mess or any of that shit. My mom can say the same thing about me. I mean, did I do shit I deserve to be in jail? Yeah, fuck yeah, I did. But at the same time, I think I went to college, got a good job. I bought a couple of homes. I was married. I did the right thing. And I have fucked up along the way. But the thing is, this man, all I ever wanted for him to tell me, and he would see the magazines, you know, and I'd give him, I want a magazine, I want this, I want that. When are you gonna come see me? He's like, when are you gonna come see me? You have grandkids here, and he would never make the effort to come see the kids or me.
Yeah.
And then after he passed away, my stepmom and I had a long conversation, and she was all like, "Your dad was very proud of you. He just didn't know how to tell you."
Yeah, yeah.
And
I think it's generational, right?
Yeah,
like they have a hard time.
Yeah. And she said,
I'm dealing with that right now. You know what I mean, with my dad. So, you know.
So and after hearing her story on how he felt, and like he, you know, your dad would cry and tell me like he wished that he could be there for you, and he wished he could do more for you, and he wished he would have been there when you were young, and go to your baseball games and your football games, and you know all the shit that I did. And dad had stepdad's here, dad ain't here, you know, and just having a long conversation with her and her telling me his real story made me wish exactly what you said. Like you wish you would have recorded, you know, your grandfather's story. I wish I would have sat there and asked my dad, look, I'm proud of you. Like you're my dad. I still love you.
Yeah.
You know, and I've never seen this man ever cry until right before he died. I went to go visit him with my kids, and we were leaving, and he always wore sunglasses when he go outside, right? So he's wearing a cap, sunglasses, and his tears fucking rolling down his eyes.
Yeah, it's heavy.
And I was like, I couldn't even, as much as I wanted to hold him and hug him, like, it's all right, Dad, I forgive you for whatever, you know, I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't do it. And a lot of that I regret. So I see where you're coming from. That was my point on that.
My dad was like, my dad was a rich kid. He's not now because his dad died and didn't leave shit. Yeah. Stepmom shit, right? But my dad was a rich kid, and I think that he lived his whole life with the idea that things were going to be okay when his parents died. So his responsibilities, his everything that he should have done that, you know, could have made a better life for, you know, me and my brothers or even himself. It's like he put it like he never accomplished anything.
For granted.
Yeah, and I hate to talk shit, man, because it's like one of those things where I never thought anything of it until I became a dad, and I saw the simple things that I do for my kids, or the simple way that I feel about my kids, and I've never felt that or seen that in my dad. Right. And so that's when I started applying a different set of standards that I expect from my dad. And when it didn't, you know, like you said, he's got grandkids, he doesn't even care. Like I cut my rich side of the family off like in 2006. That was the last time I spoke to any of them. I remember it's funny because my dad's a painter. In 2006, I'm 2 years into being a custom painter, right? At this point, I'm not working with Gary. We're kind of going through one of our moments, right? But I meet this guy, and he lets me flame out his bike. And then I have another buddy, even crazier Jerry Springer story, but this other buddy of mine, I had painted his car, and it was all flamed out Camaro. And we took both these bikes down to this car show that my grandparents and my dad put on in this little town that they're in. And I remember just bringing them down there, hanging out. Like, you know, I got this car, this bike, I painted it. My dad talked to one of his customers into letting him put flames on this truck. It was fucking horrible. Remember we talked about flames before we went on here. It's like, it was like the most garbage shit, to the point where it's like, Dad, why didn't you just ask me to do that for you? Yeah. You can paint. Why didn't you ask me to come lay those flames out for you? Yeah. And you know what fucked me up? And I've talked to my dad since then, but I never tried to. And I think that he got the hint, and it's been like probably 6 years or so, is we were all sitting there hanging out, me and my friends at a table, and they're announcing all the winners of the show. I didn't really give a shit about the show. It was just there, just doing something, right? And we're all sitting there, and I'm talking to my buddy, like, oh, man, you know, like, you seen that one chick on MySpace, dude? She's fucking hot, dude. How do you get that famous Stars and Strap fucking, cursor point? You know, we're like, that's the kind of shit we're nerded out on. And so they announced, like, that he won the show that he was in. I don't even think he had a truck, we had a car. Like, I don't even think it was the same category. But he jumped up. Whoa! Looks at me and goes, that's how you fucking paint. And, dude, I lost my shit, dude. I fucking bawled. And I was like, I walked off, and I was like, what the fuck, dude? You know, and went home, and, you know, I'm 25 fucking 4 at the time or 5 or some shit. And it's like, I don't think it affected me. I mean, it hurt then, but I think that you compile that over the next 15 years and it hurts worse now, you know, especially when you see your son now and you're like, you know, my son's kind of like making music on his computer. And it's like, every time I pick him up from school, I'm like, dude, you make anything new? Dude, put it on. Let's go. Yeah. And, you know, I'm like engaging with him. I'm telling, dude, hell, send me this, you know, and I could see that it affects the way he feels about his own self-esteem. Yeah. And I think that it's just like a generational thing that I think some people just didn't know how to be self-aware. They didn't know how to I don't know if it's humble yourself. I think it's a matter of like, they don't know how to just say, I'm sorry, I fucked up. You know what I mean? Yeah. I wish I couldn't have been. I want to be this person. Yeah. There's something in me that's a challenge to get over, to be that person I want to be for you. Yeah. You know?
Yeah. And I feel, like I said this earlier, like I have a real problem with relationships because I think that bond between my dad and I fucked me up because I don't know. I don't understand, like kind of what you're saying. Like, I don't understand how your dad or any person can have a child and you'd want
to be better
for your kid to be better than you.
Yeah.
And drive them to be better than you. It's almost like it was jealousy. You know what I mean?
100%.
And my dad was never like that, but my dad, again, he made me feel like he didn't give a fuck. And that's what bothered me and tore me up inside. So it made me feel like kind of heartless for a long time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it fucked with me. So I get what you're saying. And my younger kids, I didn't do this with my older kids, and I fucked up a lot because I was young. And like I said, I was playing in a band. I was traveling. I was gone all the time. I was doing dumb shit. So with my younger ones, you know, when they'll come and visit me, you know, first, third, and fifth weekend, and I'll set my little boy in lap. Say, I just want to tell you I'm proud of you. He goes, for what? I go, because you're my son and you're a good kid. You're smart. And I go, and I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
He's like, okay, Dad. And I love you. You know, and like you said, I think those words mean the world to him. And I do that with my daughter. Every time before they leave, I tell them that. And sometimes I have to repeat myself just because you're my son.
You hear me? Yeah.
Well, what's funny is they might not think it's as important right now, but that'll come back to them.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and it's things that I wish that my dad would have told me, even just once.
It's the subconsciousness, right? It's the subconscious thing that like those kind of support mechanisms, like when you have those in the back of your head, like it gives you the confidence. I've always said this, like I spent my 20s, you know, we're talking about, if we're going to get just like fit, like let's just talk, fuck bikes, dude. Yeah. We're talking about like life, right? Yeah. I spent my 20s being a fucking really, really piece of shit guy to women. You know what I mean? And, you know, I was very insecure with myself, and and because of those insecurities, I did a lot of things that I think that they were doing it too. So I feel like, you know, we're equal, but at the same time, it was just, I could never get into a good, solid, wholesome relationship because I was too busy assuming they were doing me wrong, so I had to do them wrong first, right?
You wanted to get the better of them first.
Yeah, I'm like, you're not going to fuck me over. I'm going to go fuck your friend. Right. You know what I mean? Or all that kind of shit. I didn't do that, but maybe. Yeah. But it's one of those situations. And then like I had this kind of like epiphany, if you will, when right before I met my wife, I'm kind of at one of the lowest points of my life. I just got fucked out of my business. I'm borrowing $20 from my grandfather to get through the week. And I'm staying in this baller-ass loft in downtown Dallas, and I meet my wife on Instagram. And through that process of meeting her, I was like, all right, so right now I kind of have like a Monday through Friday chick kind of coming through town, right? That, you know, just single, young, I'm way better shape than I am now. And, you know, and I was like, this is all unfulfilling. And I'm spending so much time every day trying to figure out what girl I'm going to come hang out with tonight instead of focusing on becoming better at anything in my life, right? And then when I met my wife, I was like, fuck it. I just cut it all off. And I just focused on one person. And then that security that my wife gave me that got rid of my insecurity, gave me so much fucking power to like to put that energy towards my crafts. And I grew my business times a million, right? I grew my skills. I grew my perspective on things, and so much just because at home was secure. I wasn't at work going, is she fucking around on me? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't think my wife ever has. I know that I haven't. And I owe a lot of my success in the last 10 years, because next year will be 10 years, to the fact that I've had this security in a woman.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've just, you got to, don't get me wrong. We've had our ups and downs in our relationship,
Sure.
but
Everybody does.
the trust is like the thing that has allowed me to flourish.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
And I think that trust also transcends into like the relationship I had with my mom and dad, where I trusted them that they wouldn't like kill me. Right. But there wasn't like a trust, like that they had their shit together to take care of me. You know, I had an apartment at 17. I graduated high school still. My dad went to jail when I was 17. My mom was kind of like on the verge of going to jail because she was trying to be a hustler in the streets.
Yeah.
You know, like I had a lot of weird shit going on, you know, but I just fucking figured it out. Right. Yeah. And so a lot of my 20s was like, I had to become an adult very young, so I'm going to just fucking indulge in everything I want, or I didn't get to have when I was younger. Yeah. You know what I mean? And, you know, you go down the path of that. Yeah. So,
well, that's I have put in so much effort, and when I was married to my younger kid's mother, you know, thinking that, okay, I'm going to settle down, I'm going to focus on this woman and do everything I can. And then in the end, just to get fucked over. So it's been, and that's happened to me more than once. So
yeah,
it's like, you know, I've had and have good women, you know, or a good woman, but it's so hard for me to believe that I have that in my life.
Oh,
because of all the negativity.
Kind of do you think you have a self-sabotage kind of nature?
Yeah. I do.
Yeah.
And that's my problem. I think that's one of my biggest problems. And I don't know if that stems from, you know, the void with my father, you know, or just past experience, or a mixture of both. I have no idea. But that's kind of where I'm at in life, you know. And I'm fucking 50 years old, you know, and I'm still
working that shit out, right?
Working that shit out, you know, trying to. So it's been difficult.
Self-sabotage is a weird one, right? Because it's basically it's you're not trusting what's right in front of you, right?
Yeah.
It's you're like, there's no way this is real, or this is like true. Maybe it's like you don't physically sabotage it, but you cause the sabotaging through conversation or lack thereof or whatever, you know. It's weird, man. Like I've noticed it in other people. I haven't had to deal with that. I think that my Achilles heel that I deal with right now to this day, and I think it also stems from my father, is entitlement. Yeah. Not entitlement like I deserve this because I just deserve it. Yeah. But I just like, did you see what I just did? Because there was nobody to, you know what I mean? My dad wasn't there going, dude, that was fucking awesome what you did. Yeah. So I have this thing that like pops up, and you get me drunk at a bike night, and, you know, I'm sitting here going off like, you know what I fucking did for that dude? You know what I'm saying? And I hate that part of me, but it exists, you know, and I try to, you know, I try to deal with it, but I also like, it's just a tough thing. It's like not a lot of people, I think pretty much everybody has something that's like that gives them kind of like that. Nobody's perfect at the end of the day, right? We all have some kind of like past bullshit we got to work out, and that's the one that I have that I hate the most. And I catch myself a lot. I'm much more aware of it now, so I think eventually I can kind of weed a lot of that out of my life. But, you know, for the time being, you know, it still exists. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So
I get it.
Sure. Yeah, it sucks. So, I mean, with doing the bike stuff, it's kind of like one of those things that, you know, your whole life kind of translates into it. You know, like my nature is to bring people together. It always has been. It's something that I enjoy. You know, you brought up Giddy Up earlier today, and I've been very vocal about it in the past, that how Giddy Up was the inspiration for me to get with my friends to start our camp out that we host every year. Yeah. And that experience of maybe not Giddy Up as like the show itself, which was a great show. I'm not downplaying that, but Giddy Up as the camp out, the camping. the way that people acted and the way people didn't give a fuck about what you were on. I remember walking, like, we'd all have our campsite, but we'd all get like 2 or 3 beers in our pockets and go, let's go fucking meet some people.
Right.
And everybody was like, dude, what's up, man? Where you from? And that to me was like the most refreshing thing in motorcycles I'd ever experienced, because like you can attest to, growing up in the industry in Dallas, it was like, we're going to Easy Rider shows and there's a painter across the booth from us. I work for this painter. We got to hate that dude, you know, and we got to hate every dude that ever goes over there and talks to him before they talk to us. And it was just like such a toxic world that we came from. And then when I realized that this toxicity only existed in this part, I was like, oh shit, this is so much better.
Yeah.
And we can like support other painters, and like we don't have to be in competition with each other. We can just all eat off the same fucking table. Changed my life.
I used to feed into that too, man. Like, I feed into, oh, I don't like that guy. Well, you're my friend because I don't like him either, you know. And you know, it got to the point where, you know, again with the and early on when I started like fucking around with bikes, you know, I would get, you know, a lot of hate, whatever, and I think people would try to fuel that fire and like, oh, well, he's talking shit about you, and I'd let it get to me, dude. And now I'm to the point where the guys that I had problems with back then, I'm cool with now. Like, whatever, you know. I mean, just like, you know, I'm an operations manager at work. I've been in management for over 25 years. There's always gonna be somebody that hates you.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how good you are to them, whatever. For some reason, you're gonna piss them off. Right?
Yeah.
So you just got to get to the point where, you know what, it's like, you know, if you don't care, I mean, if you don't care about me or you don't like what I do, then fuck you. Like, I'm just going to move on. And, you know, and you kind of know who your good friends are and who's just there for the wrong reasons, you know. And so it's kind of just kind of move on, man, kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, fuck, dude. That's, I mean,
you do feed into that. Like, you know, for your friends, like,
well, yeah.
You try to, oh, he's my buddy and he doesn't like him, so I don't like him either. It's
I think
it depends on who tells you what.
Exactly.
So,
it does.
Sometimes the people that are trying to convey the message back and forth, that's their connection to this world.
Yeah.
Like, they're not that guy or the guy they're telling it to, but somehow they now have importance because they have information.
Yeah.
Right? And that information might make them more valuable to the person that they're giving that information to. It's some weird thing. I think I've probably been in that shoes for someone that I looked up to or something like that. But I'm aware of those kind of things now. And don't get me wrong, it still fucks with me. But it's like I said, I try not to make decisions in the heat of information now anymore. I try to like just try to deal with it. And then my response comes later on. And I used to do this really bad when I drank a lot more. Yeah. And I had the ability to post on social media all fucking day. Yeah. I'd be at Buffalo Wild Wings on my fucking 18th beer. And I'm like, you know what really fucking grinds my gears? Yeah. And there you go. And then I wake up at 4 a.m. to piss and check my phone. I'm like, delete? The fuck was wrong with me last night? What was I on, you know? But no, that happens. I mean, dude, drama travels faster than positivity. Oh, 100%. Sure. Yep. Positivity doesn't feel good to talk about to people. I mean, it feels good when you're trying to and you tell yourself, but goddamn, drama, but it just taps into something different in you because it's tapping into like a different part of your being, right? Yeah. There's a fucking tribe coming over here to kill us right now, dude. What? Like, there's a tribe coming over to eat with us right now. Oh shit, let's go. Like, it's a different like chemical that's released in you, you know? So drama just fucking, it travels more and it has more ears that it falls on versus, you know, man, that dude built a really badass bike, dude. I'm so proud of him. Yeah. That shit, there's no game of telephone for those kind of messages. Yep. That shit goes 2 people. Oh, yeah, really cool. You know who I fucking hate? It's like.
Yeah, I get it.
Yep. I've been the guy, too. I've talked my shit.
I have,
you know?
too. But I've learned how to, like, you know what? If you don't have anything good to say, just shut your fucking mouth. I've had people come up to me like, yeah, dude, fucking so-and-so, fuck that dude. Like, oh, yeah. Like, I've learned if guy's never done anything wrong to me, I'm going to say, he's never done anything wrong to me, so I wouldn't know that part of him, or I don't
Yeah.
know that side of him, and I just fucking drop it. And before the old me, yeah, fuck that dude. I don't like him either.
Yeah. You
know,
start
just-
thinking about, what do I want to like? Oh, I don't like the fucking fact he has a pimple on his face,
yeah,
right?
Yeah,
He's just
just
anything.
because you want to agree and be fucking
Yeah.
be part of the conversation, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really gets you nowhere, man.
I think that like there's just a lot of competition in being cool guys, right? And I don't think that I know myself. Like I never got into bikes to be cool. I got into bikes just because. Actually, I fucking take that back. I did get into bikes to try to be cool.
Everybody
Fuck.
does in the beginning.
Yeah, yeah.
Pick up chicks.
No, I just tried to get my baby's mom to like me, and she's like, "Oh, those guys that ride bikes are so sexy." I'm like, "I'm fucking right here, dude,
Yeah.
in my Ford Focus." You know what I'm saying? Like, not cool as shit. But no, I don't know, man. Doing the podcast for a while, it's like obviously it's got its ebb and flow of like me being a little more toxic in my opinions about like things than I should be. But I just wish I wish people would realize, and kind of like we talked about earlier about our father situations, is like, why can't we fuck up and change?
Yeah.
Why can't we go down a path and realize that didn't feel right? That's not good. That's not who I want to be known for. That's not the legacy I want to leave, and make a correction and change and try to take that learning curve or that thing you learned and apply it to whatever we put in going forward. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Our families, our friendships, our careers.
Right.
It's fucking, we're all growing up, dude. We're still growing up.
Yep.
You're still growing up.
Yep.
You know? I don't know. Drama does not, it's never going to go away. Like I said, you got to learn how to fucking know your role in it and what role you want to play. So what's next? You got Born Free next year. Do you got a
Born
fucking
Free.
badass bike? What are you going to do? You got something wild? Or?
Yeah, I'm doing a 70 style long bike. It's got a 20 over Harmon, custom diamond, kind of I guess a diamond, what'd you call that? Coffin tank.
Oh, coffin
I put
tank, yeah.
Together. Doing an 18 rear, 16 front, doing super 70 style, trying to
Nice.
get really funky. Something you wouldn't normally see on an everyday basis, especially, in 2023. So it's kind of come out and kind of pushed myself on some of the metal work. Made a couple of cool little pieces the other day, and just going to keep going from there.
What power plant are you going to run?
It's S&S knucklehead.
Ooh,
Yeah.
damn! How much you had one, or you just?
I had one.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep, I had one. So yeah, it was the original motor that was in that 46 knuckle, the red one that was engraved. So that was the original motor. I pulled it out and I put polished heads and cam cover on it, and it just kind of sat in the side. And it was like when I got the opportunity. Actually, I had the opportunity to build a bike for Virginia City.
Okay, yeah, I remember that.
I had to fall out of that because my bathroom went to shit. And I had to spend money on my bathroom fixing it. So, life gets in the way sometimes. So I kind of have a head start on that bike. But,
That's cool.
Yeah, so it's just going to be a kind of semi-style funky chopper. Pushing myself with the metal work on this one as well. Not sure the paint scheme yet, but it'll turn some heads. It'll be a cool one.
How much do you feel like you see the bike in your head now versus like in the processes in the past? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. This is pretty much the bike I had in my head because I wanted it's kind of weird. So I had my buddy build me the frame off, my specifications and, kind of what I wanted. And what I wanted is almost like a gooseneck, 52 degrees, 2 up in the backbone, 2 inches, 2 in the back, on the backbone and 2 up, and 52 degrees rake. So it's kind of low slung.
Yeah, low.
And long.
It's not even. You wouldn't say that's any kind of a digger style or anything like that.
It's
almost
like a
that?
digger. Yeah,
Okay.
and I'll show you a picture when we get done.
Okay.
But it's kind of a digger style chopper because you're low to the ground, so yeah, kind of going for that, like that 70s digger style, but still chopper.
Okay.
The other thing, it's just trying to come up with different ideas. First I want to do a sissy bar. Now, like, no, I don't want to do a sissy bar. So I think I'm going to integrate the fender with the struts all one piece, and it bolts onto the back of the frame, and kind of go from there. So I like to chrome my frame, my rear fenders, so it'll be chrome,
yeah.
and all be one piece. So again,
Metalwork and all that stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah, all those
so-
transitions. And,
Yeah, so I think it'll be a challenge, but at the same time it'll be rewarding when it's done and seeing it in chrome.
That's crazy to go from like the bikes that you built in the past to like almost digger style
That's what I'm
chopper.
saying. I try to push myself into different styles. I don't want to get stuck in like, oh, he always builds a bike like this, you know, like so.
Yeah.
Did you see my Born Free 12 bike with the curved front end? It was rigid.
What color was it?
It was black base with blue and silver, and
I'm pretty sure. I know I have.
turquoise.
I'd have to see the picture to
had
like.
turquoise lights.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was all. I did
The
all
purple
by-
one and the red one are the ones that stand out the most to me.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
those
and
are the early ones.
Okay.
The purple one and then the red one I built in 2018 for Fuel Cleveland.
Yeah.
But that's my rider. I ride the shit out of that bike.
That's why I see it so
Yeah,
much all the time. Yeah.
So, going back to the frame, I wanted to do something different with the frame, and I'm sure it's been done, but I'm saying I've never seen it done. Is use square tubing. So the down tube is like set almost like a diamond, so it's set kind of like
Yeah.
with the point out, and it's got the same square tubing on the backbone. It's kind of curved, so it's kind of goosenecked.
Did it start as an original frame?
No.
So it's all
Round-
one off.
Yeah,
Okay.
I told him what I wanted. I bought the rear section, and he welded everything together for me. 'Cause I don't have a jig. I mean, that's a little
Different.
past my expertise.
Yeah.
But
Well,
I mean, a lot of these guys, it's and a lot of guys say, well, you didn't build a frame, but how many guys use Harley frames? And
Bro.
just customize them.
trust me, I just did a bike. And I the reason I try to stay away from the word build is for those fucking jerk offs out there that want to, dive deep into the whole concept of it.
Yeah.
As you know, of just customizing bikes and, being the producer, like I always think of it like you got to have a producer, someone that can make all this shit happen. The guy that can find the right people to do the right things to kind of get this bike to look the way it needs to look,
Right.
And, I don't know how to, prior to this bike, I had never welded steel before. I've only welded stainless steel.
Yeah.
So when I was making that exhaust bracket, I was telling you I was having fun with, I was like, dude, steel is so much easier than stainless. Like, I'm like fucking stoked about this now. But like Corey, like when I told him my ideas and he decided to be on board with me, like I just gave him like you said, that kind of, I wouldn't say specifications on my end. Like this is the idea.
Right.
And then
Corey's a badass.
he is. And so from that point on, his experience and expertise, like took my idea and honed it in the way it needed to be, because we both cared about the stance of the bike. Right. But in the process of being present, videoing him doing all this, watching him explaining what he's doing, I want to do it now, and that's why I brought up the whole Sportster thing. It's like, I don't know that I don't need another fucking hobby, to be completely honest with you, but I need to like scratch this itch. I need to see if
How
there's
far you
something
take it.
there, right? Because, and once again, not to take away anything that Corey provided here, but I just maybe arrogantly feel like I have a vision of bikes that look good, and I think that I could make them happen if I can learn how to do it all myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
For that reason, I want to see if that's true or not. And, maybe if I do this bike and it comes out like shit, then I'll know, okay, no, you can never do this without Corey. So, and Corey, Corey and I talk enough and whatnot, and he knows that my intentions. He knows also I will never not give him credit for what he did for me.
Yeah.
And the reason I also wanted to let the world know about that is because I want the world to know how bikes really get built.
yeah.
Well,
I mean, if you look at it this way, like there's guys that build bikes, right? And they'll build a traditional hardtail 60s chopper, right?
Mm-hmm.
They'll build exhaust, they'll build whatever, but a lot of them aren't building the hoops. They're not building the wheels. They're not building the frame. You know what I mean? A lot of them are. Don't get me wrong, but what I'm trying to get at is you can be a custom bike builder and, like you said, be the founder of that bike. Like the foundation of that bike is in your mind, and I'm going to tell this person what I want, and I want it. I want this frame just like this. I want it this degrees of whatever. Then you get the frame, and then you do, like my situation. RKB is a guy that built my frame.
yeah.
He's one of my friends. He's a fucking master. Kind of like Corey is. In the FXR world and what he does. This guy with the choppers can build anything you want.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like taking a stock hardtail frame versus having a frame built to my specifications is not any different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I'm still using a frame.
I think, well, I think what you've been dealing with, and the same thing that I was kind of expecting to deal with going through this process, because I was a builder on the FXR tour and another builder on the FXR tour did the frame on mine.
Right.
I just leaned into the jokes. I'm like, I guess this is both our bikes. It's just going to stay at my house, right? But the thing is, in being in the motorcycle industry for 20 years, like, there are a lot of people out there that I know personally who've never even fucking screwed a bolt in there, that stands there as the builder on the fucking magazine covers and all this. And that's their choice to hide the fact, you know. And there's other guys that are literally just like, they do put the bolts in, but that's all they do is put the bolts in. They didn't make anything else, you know. So I always say, it's like, you know, at the end of the day, it's what got done. Like, choose the builder that's capable of creating the type of bike that you want. And whatever they do to get that professional version done, that's all that matters. If that bike sucks at the end of the day, but they made every part, it doesn't make that bike better.
Exactly. And that's exactly what we were talking about earlier. Exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the thing. Like, I've never hidden the fact, like, oh, I built the frame. Who built the frame? I did. I'd never say that. You know, because I know a lot of the guys that build bikes farm a lot of the parts out. You know, like, oh yeah, so and so. You know, they had, you know, their wheels built by a so and so or whatever, but it's still fucking built a tank, they built a fender, they modified whatever parts are. I mean, you're still building shit. You know, you're just, you know, there's some things that are out of my. I don't do this every day, just like a lot of guys don't do this every day. They do it as a hobby. This is my hobby, so you know. But at the same time, you're gonna get at the end, you're gonna get a quality bike from me. You know, and it's gonna be fucking a show bike. You know, and that's all. To me, that's all that matters.
The other question is, okay, the guy that did do the frame, do you think he would have built that bike?
No. No, we have different tastes.
Exactly.
We have different tastes, and that's the thing. That's what I'm saying. The guy is an amazing fabricator. He builds amazing bikes, but his version of what he likes, my version, is totally different. And he joked with me the other day when I posted a picture of the bike in the stance. He goes, damn, I build cool bikes. I said, yeah, I knew that was coming, fucker. You know, like, we fuck with each other, you know?
Yeah.
And he knows that, you know, that was my version. He built the frame for me, of course, but it was my version of my specification of what I wanted. And he did the same thing with my front end on my Born Free 12 bike. I wanted a rigid, curved, you know, front end. I gave him the measurements. He showed me how to get the trail right. We did all that, put it on the bike. It was level. Like I said, you know, he's in California. There's no way he didn't come down here and measure it for me.
Yeah.
You know, I told him what I wanted, and he fucking built it, and he made it fucking killer, you know. And again, that's because we worked as a team, and, you know, it was my idea, but he made it happen. And that's what I always say, you know. It's like, I always, even on Instagram, I always, like, you know, always come up with these crazy ideas, and Rick makes it happen for me, you know. Things I can't do, he can make happen. That's what he does for a living, you know. He's a fabricator.
That's how a lot of great things happen in the world, right? Sometimes it's like, you know, I mean, you don't have iPhones and whatnot without Steve Jobs. He didn't fucking make it.
Right.
It's like, it's always the thing. Like, you have to accept the fact that sometimes the best paint job I'm ever going to create is not the one that I created on my own ideas. It was something that was from this guy's, what he needed, right? I did the work, but it's his paint job. You know what I mean? It's for him. It's his ideas, his things that came through me that created that thing. You know, and a bike build or parts or fucking, you know, all this stuff is different. You know, like, you need these creative nudges to go these different directions that maybe you would not go until you are getting commissioned to go that direction, or whatever the case may be, you know?
Yeah. I mean, again, I think it's all about, you know, just being creative and in general, and then knowing the people that can make that happen. If you can't do it, you know, you have friends that can make it happen, and then as a combined team, you get what you want in the end. Just like you just said, you know, you may come up with one of the best paint jobs you've ever done in your life, but somebody inspired you to do that because of their idea. It might have been a small idea, but you made it happen for them, you know, because of your creativity.
And so it's hard to, like, just take full credit for that, right? Yeah. And I think at the end of the day, I think that by talking about this more and just exposing how things actually take place, then it just makes it more better or not more better, but it just makes it more acceptable that there's more than one way to build a bike. There is a guy out there that does every fucking thing. There is a Christian Newman out there, right?
Yep.
There is these other guys that are just, the Sosa Metalworks, these dudes that are just fucking insane, right? But that's not the majority.
There's a guy right now that's on Bill Will's People's Champ for this coming year, building his frame. I mean, he drew it out on the ground.
Oh, yeah, John Jackson.
Is that him?
Yeah, he did the
Action Jackson.
Yeah.
Yeah, that dude's amazing.
Dude, he's fucking...
I can't do any of that shit. And that's what makes me feel like, why am I here but he's not here? Or people like that. And I understand that. I'm not stupid thinking like I'm better than him, because I'm not. It's just...
Well, the reason why you're there and he's not yet is because he is just now starting to put himself in the eyes of the people to be there.
Right. And that's the thing that's I was trying to get at. I put in a lot of time, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears to get where I'm at. And that's what people don't understand. I didn't just get lucky and start yesterday. I'm like, oh, okay, well, you're born free now. You know what I mean? It's
people think that okay, I'm going to build a bike and post it on the internet and then everything's going to happen. You got to build a bike, post it on the internet, and then go across country to that bike show, shake hands and be present and do all this other shit. It's not some overnight success. You don't go and break up with your girlfriend and then go to the bar and pick up the guitar and play a song and there's a record executive in there and you get a fucking it doesn't happen that way.
Right.
You have to grind and show up and be present, and that's how it happens. And Sean he's been being present the last couple of years, and so opportunities are starting to come from him.
Right.
And same thing with you put in your time being present in some other areas through the or through the Chop Cult stuff and all that has gave you the eyesight on you to get the opportunity.
Right.
Same thing's happening for me right now. I'm just now getting in the circle with Mike and Grant and these other people. I don't know what life's going to look like the next 3 years.
Right.
Yeah. We'll see. Right. But I'm not going to deny any opportunity.
Exactly. And that's what
because nobody else would either.
Right. And that's the point I was going to make. If somebody had an opportunity hey, do you want to, Mike or Grant, which Mike came to me the first time on Instagram, and asked me, do you want to build for Born Free, or what do you have going on right now while I'm building a bike? Do you want to build a bike for Born Free? I'd be a fucking idiot to say no. I mean, if I didn't have the ability or the capability to do it, then I'd be shooting myself in the foot because I look like an idiot. But I didn't. I fucking ran with it. I fucking made it happen. And then they asked me back a second year, and I did it. And again, it's if opportunity arises, you have to fucking take it, right?
Well, the opportunities also can be the thing that can take you to another level that you might not have done. See, I feel like there's a lot of really talented people that are capable of building some amazing bikes, but they just haven't had the push to go to that, push themselves to that level.
I agree with that. There's again with the guy we were just talking about. I see his stuff like crazy. I mean, just the stuff he did last year, and then now he's building. I mean, it's just I don't know.
He built a Pan America FXR last year.
Is that what it was?
Well, that was one of them. He built two. Jaden did that podcast with Sean Jackson because he drove down here because he had to go pick up some stuff in Temple from he's up in Mass area, I think.
Yeah, I don't know.
And he built an FXR, then he built a Pan America. He took a Pan America motor and put it in an FXR frame. Then he did another bike for another event. I think it might have been Virginia City. I think. Last year, he's on a fucking roll right now. Yeah. He's building some shit.
Well, that's the thing. Once you like I said, you get the eyes on you, and you're attending these events. And
Jacob Connery, right now,
he's another amazing guy. And that dude's super humble, amazing dude. I mean, and he's younger than both of us. Look what he's doing. I mean, I'm
talking so much shit to him this weekend coming up.
Are you going to put him on a podcast?
He's been on it a couple of times. Yeah.
That dude's he's a good dude. But it's again, I said this earlier, and I'll say it again. There's a lot of guys that deserve to be in this position more than I do. I just got the opportunity. That's all it is. And I don't think I'm better than anybody. I know there's guys that are way better builders than I am.
If everybody had to go on the same path to get to the top of the mountain, then that path would be so crowded you'd never be able to see any real talent. Right. The fact that there's more ways to get to the top of the mountain, it allows people to be more inspired because some people may never try to build a bike because they assume that they're never going to be able to because they don't do this thing. Right. I don't have a Haas machine in my garage. I'm never going to be a bike builder. Right. Or I can't fucking do math or whatever the case may be. Right. So when you have other people that find ways to get around some of these stigmas to get through and build stuff and do cool shit, I think it inspires more people that way because
I think so too.
You know,
what were guys doing in the 60s and 70s? They were building bikes in their garage.
Yeah.
With stick welders. You know, you take some of these bikes apart nowadays, like some of my friends, you know, they'll repair a frame and they're finding like mud dauber welds under this shit and be like, what the fuck? How did that hold up so many years, you know? But they're some of the coolest fucking bikes, you know, when they were together, you know? And so it's like, you know, and I think that's it. Like, if anything, I want to inspire people that are like me, that want to do this. You can do it. You just got to fucking keep pushing yourself and be in the limelight, or push yourself to be in the limelight.
Yeah. And, you know, if you get lucky or, you know, if your effort turns into an opportunity, like the other thing that I've always told people is like, I've seen some people get more opportunities that they don't even arrive, they don't even show up to, versus like someone that is just waiting on an opportunity. They're breaking out in hives because they're so fucking ready for a purpose. And I would always tell them like, dude, just build it anyway. You know, just build it and take it and show up. I mean, doing this FXR tour, that's one of the things we kept hearing from people is like, everybody wants to be a builder on it, but there was other guys that just built and showed up anyway. Yeah. Right? Why not do that? You think you're gonna build one bike your whole fucking life?
Well, the other thing is, if you do that, there may be, how many guys were invited as
just
builders?
10. Yeah.
So if 3 other guys show up building, you know, cool ass fucking bikes, they're still gonna be fucking noticed. They're still gonna look at like, damn, fuck, why weren't these invited? Or maybe next year. You know what I mean? It still gets the work out there. Their craft out there is what I'm saying.
Well, even a couple of guys on the tour said, even though they built one this year for the tour, they want to do one again next year just for that.
And just kind of ride with the tour. So it's like that same concept that I think that what we were trying to kind of come across in doing this FXR tour shit was that, you know, there's a lot of people out there that are kind of like, that have kind of got a name through the performance bagger scene, and I think they're coming to that cusp where they need something a little bit more in depth, a little more creative, a little bit more individual, a little more personalized, right? Don't get me wrong, like I love performance baggers, but I think that there's kind of a box that they all kind of have to fit in, because when you're financing a $30,000+ bike, there's only so much you're willing to do to that thing to devalue it or value it, right? Right. Probably not going to chop that fucking frame up and whatnot if you want to, whatever. So I think that the FXR platform, when you can pick up one for any, I bought an $800 frame, right? And that's where I started. You know, some of the guys started with an actual bike and deconstructed it and rebuilt it. And there's a lot of different styles. The same way when you go to Born Free and you see the invited builders, you might have a Digger style, or you know, Oliver at Cut Rate style, or a Jacob Kennard style, or Max Shaft. Like everybody has these styles, and so you're not looking at a row of the same fucking bikes, you know, and that's what you want to see. You want to see diversity in like a build series, if you will. So we're trying to promote that through the FXR tour stuff. So, you know,
I mean, I think Born Free they're really in tune with that as well. Like now with the FXR, you know, they're doing their own little sideshow with that. I think it's becoming very noticeable. I mean, everything that everybody's doing, I mean, there's like the diversity of FXRs and baggers and choppers. I mean, there's artistic value in all of it.
Oh,
you know what I mean? I mean, so you can't downplay that. Now, if it's a 30-inch front wheel on a bike, I'm going to go ahead and pass on that. But, I mean, that's just my style. But, like, performance baggers and, like, some of these really nice baggers and paint jobs and FXRs I do appreciate. I
think that, like, the performance, air quotes, scene has always kind of coincided with the vintage chopper scene. I think it's more of a kind of like the same, but we kind of dress a little different, but we still kind of do the same shit. Right. You know, there is like a passion towards riding and being a part of the culture. And, you know, usually the chicks are bouncing back and forth between, you know, are they vintage chicks? Are they into new shit? Like, where are we at, you know? But I just felt like it's always kind of drawing the same crowd. That's one thing I noticed that going to Giddy Up early on was it's this show where you're not allowed to have anything past the shovel head in it. Yeah. But everybody in the parking lot was on something newer in a Dyna or Sportster or whatever. So I'm like, why? You know, it drew the same crowd as opposed to a year before going to a big wheel bagger show in Sturgis. There was no crowd of Dyna kids out front. Right. It didn't appeal to them. It was like
choppers
or any choppers, to be honest with you. So it was like, oh, I see that there's a connection here. And so that also got my brain working. I was like, I think that this crowd would love to be in a place where they felt like it was about them. So that's why we did the camp out. Yeah. It was about, you know, the same idea of like a traditional field meet party camp out thing that's taken place for years and years and years in our culture. Yep. Let's just make it to where like all the guys that are coming in here from all over the country and their fuel injected bikes feel like they're the raddest motherfuckers. Yeah. You know, fuck, it's worked out really well so far, you know?
I agree.
So yeah, it's like I said, I'm stoked about it. This weekend, I haven't been to Lone Star Rally in quite a while, you know?
Either. I think the last time was right when I finished that purple bike. That was 2012.
For real?
And I took that bike out there and won. That's the year I won the Cycle Source award. Yeah. And then I got the cover of Cycle Source.
Nice.
Yeah. So that's kind of that bike was built for when Show Class was doing their build off before, and I got picked for, I guess it was top 21, and then I didn't make the top 6. But I still finished the bike and took it to your.
Did Show Class, were they the original guys doing what Builtwell does as far as like for Born Free and all that?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. I think they did up to 8 or 9, and then I think Builtwell took over.
Dude, I miss Show Class so bad, dude.
Yeah.
That magazine was so badass.
Yeah.
I mean, there's only maybe a handful of issues that I don't have that I want to get, but God,
I had them all, and I think I sold them or gave them away. I don't know what the fuck happened to them.
I love that magazine's just cool, man. It's cool because like when you look at the ads, I remember Dixon Flannel, which I don't wear those now, but they had an ad in one of those a long time ago where it was like the word Dixon was spelt out in cocaine on a glass. I'm like, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's like
vintage chopper shit.
Yeah, that to me that's like I don't know. It's like real like underground, you know, punk rock type shit, right? So I don't know. I like that. Yeah. And then, but no, like Galveston this weekend. I think the last time I went to Galveston was I think I went in 2016, and then I skirted through it in 2018. But it's always been like a shit show on that strand. It's a shit show if you're trying to ride on it, but if you're sitting back having a beer, watching, it's Jerry Springer.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, for motorcycles.
I'm looking
Didn't
forward
you
to
have
that.
like an issue with the ferry or something last time you went? I think you were telling me about that.
The last time I went was when it was right after the camp out one, and I went down there with Big Will Cody and them, and I had a black bagger. It was when I just bought that last 2019, and it was just kind of it was just it's I don't know. Lichter hit me up, and they were trying to bring back what I guess Cycle Source used to do down there. Yeah. And you know, I think he knew about this little FXR chop we were doing, so he made that an opportunity to put it on a pedestal. And that's the other thing. Like, I've never been a show guy. I want shows to happen. I just never was a guy that wanted to put my bike in a show. Like, I would rather it be in the show, like over there, and then it's just there, right? Yeah. But I want this bike to be in those places because I want to have that experience so that I can talk about it through this podcast. Yeah. So that I can relate to some of the people as to why they do that and why they want to do that. So I just want to it's the experience that I'm after right now, you know?
Yeah, and I think it's cool too, you know, like, again, to build something that you want to build, and then you can actually let the people experience it, and just to see the reaction. Some might not like it, but still, just to see. And a lot of them are obviously. If you got invited to Lichter's show, I mean, it's a very nice bike, you know. Yeah. Just to see how people react is like what I strive on. I guess that's kind of cool. And then, but the more you do it, like I noticed, like now I'll just go park my bike, fucking walk off. I'd want to sit around and like see what they're, people are looking at it, you know, and now it's like, you know, if they like it, they like it. I'm going to go party with my friends, you know, hang out. But I mean, I know people are going to enjoy it, you know, or look at it. It's just, you start getting to the point where you realize that you don't give a fuck. Like, I built this bike for me, and obviously I get invited to the show, so it's
other people thought it was cool. Yeah.
So just go from there, you know?
Yeah. And I think that for a fact, like I'm content with like my relationship with this bike, regardless of how, you know, now I'm saying that on the fact that like it's got a well reception through social media and whatnot, but you know, I guess it's more just like like baiting into the whole concept of like how confident I was in this like idea, and as I saw it come together, I'm like, this is gonna go fucking hard, dude.
Yeah.
And it's just kind of been a constant reinforcement through like everything we put out there. But you know, this bike for me, like I'm gonna try to do some things I've never done on a motorcycle next year. But leading up to next summer, you know, I had a bare knuckle Paul help me get into contact with Warren and those guys at Mama Tried.
Yeah.
It got accepted to go there. I have no idea how the fuck I'm going to get it there in February, but now, like, I want this bike to be shown off, not just because of like my own like ego, if you will, but the people that did it with me. Like, I want them to have that credit, because I've been a part of that before. Like, I've had a guy that built a badass bike that I got to paint, and I got a lot of credit from it being in those type of things. And I kind of want to do that for the people that helped me out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And also, like I said, I want to experience what it's like to be in that part of the world of the motorcycling, which I haven't before. Yeah. So
I mean,
I've always stayed away from shows.
Yeah.
Because I was the dude that would like ride my big wheel bagger across the country and come to the show and leave the bugs on it to make a point. Yeah. And obviously I'm not going to win that show. Yeah. Right? Because they don't give a fuck about that. Yeah. But so me, I've always just been like, it's, and Gary told me something a long time ago that's always stuck with me. It's like, I'm not in competition with my customers. Yeah. So if my customers are building bikes to go win trophies, there's no point in me putting my bike in there with them to try to win the same trophy. Yeah. I'd rather just let them win the trophies and then come back and pay me to do another job. Yeah. So
makes sense. Yeah.
You know,
I mean, you you're long overdue, man. You put a lot of, you know, time and effort in painting and doing what you've done. And you deserve every moment of it, dude. You'll enjoy it.
I hope so. Yeah.
It's a different experience, and it's almost addicting, you know. And it's hard to, and then when they come to you, hey, you want to build a bike for, you know, next whatever show it may be, and it's kind of hard to say no.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of what I'm worried about right now, because this idea, this thing that I'm trying to pursue next summer is going to be so time consuming and such a passion project that it's going to be just like building a bike, right? Yeah. And so I kind of want to be able to do that, right? But I have other ideas for more bikes, but I do want to go through the process of like doing the Sportster like we talked about first, and seeing if I have the confidence to kind of do another, because I have another idea for another FXR that's kind of in the vein of what the chopper stuff, but not look like mine. Yeah. But then again, like I just really want to. I don't want to rush it. Patience, right? Yeah. Do the Sportster, feel confident with some things, and then ease into the next project. And hopefully, by that time you've built a relationship with enough people that like I can be like, hey, Mike, Grant, I got this idea. I'm doing this bike. This is where we're going with it. If you have a home, Texas, California for it, we can make it for this. Yeah. If not, I can put it over here. Like, I do know that having like building for a reason gives you an end date to try to stick to. And it also, it kind of like, it just puts pressure on you. And sometimes like, a lot of pressure, you know, when I don't procrastinate because I'm lazy. I procrastinate because it's hard to stop once you start. Yeah. And so you're not ready to be married to this thing for the next fucking 5 months, you know? So, well, I'm stoked, man. I'm glad that you're using the resources you have to do the things you can. And I, like I said, I knew that. I listened to the podcast, some other podcasts that you were on and stuff, just to kind of touch bases with some of that. And I think that, you know, the bikes that you're putting out there and all the other contributions you're making to the motorcycle culture, deserve to be, you know, praised. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you're doing something to make this thing better than you found it, then thank you. Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Thank you. I appreciate your show and, you know, have me on the podcast, and it means a lot to me, and can't wait to see you next weekend.
Yeah. I'm sorry it took fucking so long to get you in
it's
here,
all
dude.
Good, man. Life happens.
I appreciate it. Jason, appreciate it. All right. We'll catch you later.